Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow underway. The Friday edition. We've made it. Headed into the football weekend. Glad you're with us. Across the network as we broadcast live from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Today, Michael McHenry will join us. Former Major League catcher, now analyst, joins us as we will preview the World Series matchup between Arizona and Texas. First pitch later this evening. Plus, Michael Fabiano, all things guru for fantasy football. The bye weeks, or at least the big one until week 13. The big one was week 7 behind us. And now we go into week 8 as everyone's jockeying for position, wondering about the trade deadline and more. Fabiano joins us with the Fabs 5, who to sit, who to start, and more. That's coming up later this hour. And Chad Withrow brings you his famous top 10 games of the college football weekend. Chad, good afternoon.
It is quite famous, Hutton. I appreciate you acknowledging as much.
Well, the effort that you go to eliminate the 11 through 15 to get to your top 10 is, I mean, you stress over this.
It's really about reduction. You know, what I do is I take a list of all the games, and then I just start plucking away. I'm pruning those games I don't care about, that not enough people care about. Some care, but not enough. And then I slowly whittle it down, work my way to the top 10 of the week. Hutton, I'm excited to announce that this week's top 10 features my first ever MAC game. We have MACtion, finally, in my top 10 of the weekend. So there you go.
Just under the radar for November.
Yeah.
Just before we get to November.
I've long said it's going to be a November to remember, and right before we get to November, we're going to have our first game in the Mid-American Conference. Exciting times.
It has been an October to remember for the University of Michigan football. I mean, they're trouncing opponents, while others, you know, the major favorites don't always cover. Just ask Georgia. Well, I believe they've covered one game.
They're 1-7. They're one of 6 schools in America that's 1-7 against the point spread.
And they haven't had the most difficult schedule, but they have had a more difficult schedule than Michigan. But Michigan is just purely dominating, trouncing opponents. And there's something to be said for that. And right as we went off the air yesterday, as we're going off the air, Chad has the news where it changes by the hour. Not changes, but there's more detail that piles on, where we learned in the investigation with Matt Weiss, their former coordinator, who was put on leave and then fired based on the investigation, the report of computer access crimes. Not only is campus police involved, but the FBI has been involved for months in regards to this investigation. And then about 30 minutes after we're on the text chain together, me, you, and Davey, Chad. The report from Ross Dellinger at Sports Illustrated, who has the report on TCU, where they match up in the college football playoff in the semis. And by the time, and by and large, everyone has said that Michigan did not go and pre-scout TCU. That was the one opponent. We know that tickets were purchased for Tennessee. There were tickets purchased for others throughout the season, non-conference, but possible college football playoff opponents for the Wolverines. TCU's not been on that list. However, coaches started calling TCU as soon as the matchups were announced that they were going to get Michigan right out of the gate in the college football playoff, saying, hey, it's not that they may have your signs, they do, and it really helps them change them. And coaches at TCU were saying it was just multiple coaches from different programs warning them. So what do? They changed their signals, and they implemented dummy signals of their calls during the season that they had swapped, which totally confused Michigan, and TCU ends up putting 51 points on the board for a Michigan defense that had only allowed at most 27 last year, until the Horned Frogs dropped 51 on them to advance to the national championship game. Coincidence, Chad?
No, not at all.
None of this is,
This
right?
is going to be a hell of a docuseries whenever all of this comes out. Who's behind the law firm? Who's paying? Who's funding this project? A question my buddy often asks. who's funding this project to have the outside counsel law firm go after Michigan in this way, knowing that they were up to some stuff? Somebody who tipped off TCU, as Hutton just mentioned. People knew about this scheme for a while, and then they started to gather intel on it, much like Michigan and Connor Stallions had been gathering intel for a long time. Those against Michigan doing this started to gather intel. Two big reports yesterday that came out, one after the other. The first one, Hutton, was, Davey sent us this from the Detroit Free Press. The University of Michigan Police, I read this, a part of this right before we went off air. University of Michigan Police have partnered with the FBI for months to investigate computer crimes committed by OC Matt Weiss. I'm told the victims are extensive and across state lines. Now, Michigan police came out and said it's in no way related to the sign stealing scheme that's going on. And then, Hutton, you mentioned the report from Ross Dellinger with a lot of detail about TCU and the links they went to make sure that they were Wolverine-proof with the cheating that was going on, with the sign stealing and the off-site scouting that was taking place.
The quotes from the Dellinger report, I mean, literally everybody we talked to knew. This is from one TCU coach. They'd say, just so you know, they steal your signals, and they're going to have everything, so you better change them. And then one coach told the TCU staff that Michigan, quote, has the most elaborate signal stealing in the history of the world. Meaning, one slight signal gives them anything they need, and they've known it. If you haven't used it in weeks, they've got it. Craziness.
One of my favorite follows on what was formerly known as Twitter, now X, is No Context College Football. There's a No Context College Basketball also, and it just puts out random video and photos from television games or just something happening crazy in a game. And they've been posting video of Connor Stallions whispering to either the offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator during games. And there's one from the TCU game last year, Hutton, that is clear as day. You're showing the coordinator, and Stallions is staring across the sideline, and he goes to him and he tells him, you know, what's going on, and then the defensive coordinator is making a call.
And that's what they did against Ohio State.
Into his headset.
Yeah.
And obviously didn't work because TCU was wise to it and changed everything up and put up 51 on Michigan.
And keep in mind, that in and of itself is not illegal.
No.
It's just that the allegations and, I mean, the tickets that were purchased at all these different stadiums would prove that you can't do it off campus. You can't have off-site scouting of your next opponent or future possible opponents. Or really, that could mean anyone, quite frankly. And that's what Connor Stallions was doing in this case. Here's, though, what is so intriguing to me about what didn't happen. So many coaches apparently called TCU when this matchup was announced. This was last year. We're getting into this now as we go into November. Sonny Dykes, a protege of Mike Leach. And Mike Leach, in the matchup one year against Arizona State's Todd Graham was apparently notorious for stealing signals. Again, in the rule book, not against the rules, not illegal unless you're gaining an advantage off-site. So during the game against Arizona State, while he's at Washington State, Mike Leach, as Dellinger writes, aggressively flashed signals towards Graham in a hilarious moment that's made the rounds on social media the last few days. And changing the signs, using dummy signals. I don't know why, if all of these coaches were saying it's the most elaborate sign stealing in the history of the world, why you didn't do the same thing in some instances. You can at least change a few things to try to throw Michigan off with some dummy calls. And I don't get the sense that happened here. Isn't that, I mean, I don't understand that part of it.
Well, I don't know who all knew. You know, there are coaches that have said that. And like Kirby Smart, for instance, he talked about their playoff matchup before, and he was asked, and he's one of the few coaches that's really spoken about it directly. And he said, we had no information that they had our signs. During the game, it didn't look like they had our signs. We had heard nothing about that. And then went on to say, but now hearing the allegations, this is above and beyond anything I've ever heard of.
Well, we know the Big Ten schools knew. I mean, that everyone's alluding to the fact that, oh, yeah, they're stealing signs. So it starts there. I don't understand how you don't change your signals. I understand it can be difficult to do that because you're used to one thing. You're not trying to confuse the quarterback as they look to the sideline, whatever. Or just change the way you deliver the signals. Instead of the hand signals with 3 quarterbacks, go to a method where you show a photo, or an image. Some schools have done that. Chad, it's just I don't. For all of the, oh, yeah, we knew they were doing it. It's like, well, if they got you and you knew about it, and as paranoid as coaches are about, kicking people out of practice or worrying about who's in the hotel that overlooks the facility or the dorm room, who's on the roof at the library, that part just doesn't track and add up to me. You agree?
I just don't know who knew. Like, I get if all the Big Ten knew and didn't tell any of their peers with any other programs, and then the Big Ten wasn't doing anything. I also don't know when they got the damning evidence on them. Because it's one thing to take a rumor and then, say, oh, Michigan cheats, they steal signs, right? Like, we think they've got informants out watching our games, but you can't prove it. But somebody went to great lengths to pay a law firm to dig up information on this, believing it to be true. And now this law firm turned over a hefty bit of evidence to both the Big Ten and the NCAA. And how did they react? A day later, they announced an investigation. And within a week, they're on Michigan's campus interviewing every member of the football staff. And for the NCAA, that is lightning fast time. Some may say a week. Why do they do it the next day? That is lightning fast for the NCAA. And it does show the importance they're putting on this case because it has timely repercussions. It's this season. I mean, you got to know exactly what they have on everyone else. Every other Michigan opponent immediately was contacted and told what was going on so they could change up whatever they needed to. I also get, conflicting things on, I think it was Matt Rule, I'm getting some of the coaches who've spoken out about it, said it's not easy just to change it all the time. You can do it maybe once or twice a season, change up your signs, freshen them up, but you get 20 hours a week with them. It's not like you do it every week. We're going to do completely new signs for this game. I don't know who knew. We all know. Like, it's easy to look back now and say, oh, wow, this has been going on for a while. I need to know who knew, what they knew, why Greg Schiano is being so angry at a halftime interview on TV, alluding to now what we know. When did he know that? How long had he known it? Did he tell anyone? Who's funding this project? We're still left with a ton of questions in this whole story. Well, I agree with you on the why. If this has been going on since Connor Stallions has been there for 2 or 3 years, and people have been talking about it, how do we just get to this point now? When TCU went through all this, did TCU report them when they started hearing that they had their signs? I don't know. Or maybe it just took a dump truck full of computer hard drive evidence that a law firm gathered and video evidence before the NCAA was going to lift a finger.
Yeah, and the damning evidence is the off-campus part of this, so that could be what they're waiting on. But what we know is they had tickets to more than 30 games for 11 Big Ten schools over the last 3 years, with Connor Stallions wearing Michigan gear as he went into on both sidelines, right? What we know about who knew, we knew some message board poster, Arnie Palmer on VolQuest, posted this in December that he knew. It's even Matt Rule in that same answer chat about not being able to do it in season because it's really difficult, admitted that coaches are stealing signs.
But who's going to take the poster seriously? Like, did the poster then call his university rep? Does he have contact with someone on Tennessee staff to tell them this? Did he go to the NCAA? I doubt it.
No one's taking the poster seriously until you have the other hard evidence.
Yeah, exactly. But you could post anything, and no one even looked at it.
But I would say, to the timeline, coaches knew as they called Dykes at TCU prior to the bowl game, and here we are in late October discussing said scandal instead of August, September, whatever. Or trying to, in the moment this year, if you're one of the coaches that called, catch Connor Stallions in the act of doing so at your stadium. That would be the other part of it.
There's also this weird balance between being a snitch and doing what's right. and we know this, coaches will talk to each other.
Because it comes back
but
on
rarely do you roll on another team to the NCAA. Yeah. So while the coaching pipeline could have been discussing Michigan's sign-stealing operation, maybe no one went to the NCAA or a league office for that reason until it was a third-party law firm that could do it, because all the information, by the way, was paid for and gathered by someone. Who is that someone? You can speculate all you want about what team or individual might want this investigated. But however it got there, it does seem now, with the level of investigation, the feds involved in it, this scheme with Connor Stallions crossing state lines, the Matt Weiss investigation tying into this, the walls are closing in on Jim Harbaugh, and he's got the most dominant football team in America right now on the field. And everything else seems to be closing in on the Wolverines.
At least we get to see them play Penn State and Ohio State coming up. But I agree, they have been totally dominant, more than any program in America.
And there is an element of this for me that I legitimately think about who else has done this. Is Michigan really alone? Like, some have come out and said they've never heard of this, but a lot of other people are just really silent.
Yeah, and you know what? We'll never know, because I doubt it's as brazen and just, here we are and we're doing it. We're wearing the team gear. We're employing this guy. I doubt it's that thorough or that blatant. Coming up, Michael McHenry on the World Series.
So there is a 26-year-old woman in Australia. Her name is Annie Knight. She is on OnlyFans. So that being said, this shouldn't be so surprising, but please wait for it. Annie is bragging about having slept with 300 people in 1 year.
What? 300.
That is basically one person a day, but she didn't even space them out to that degree. She admitted to sleeping with 5 people in one day. And FYI, I say people because Annie does not discriminate. She sleeps with both men and with women. And the best part is she refers to this promiscuous lifestyle as empowering. Yeah, I'd be empowered to go get checked for STDs, but not much else empowering about this behavior. But this is the mentality that is being developed among women. They are out to prove they can do anything a man can. If you could put me on camera for this, that would be great, because I feel very strongly about this. Women are always out to prove that they can do what a man can, though it's very hypocritical, because if you ask me, because I would bet that if a man did do this and had this type of behavior that he was engaging in, women would be the first people to immediately call him toxic. Now, I would also love to know the family dynamic of Annie, because strong chances are she didn't have a strong male role model growing up, as she would have learned the degeneracy is the ultimate form of self-respect. And again, she's 26. I have no clue if and when she intends to get married, but this is going to be a hard sell for a future husband, or even wife for that matter, since she considers herself bisexual, who has even an ounce of regard for themselves. And let's be honest, Annie, if you slept with 300 people in 1 year, how many in your lifetime?
Ouch. Don't do that math. All I can think about is Wilt Chamberlain, because Wilt said he had 10,000 women. And I'm like,
how do you
do the math? If you do that, like, don't do the math. You don't want to do the math because it's disgusting. And you go, okay, I know you're trying to brag with your boys a little bit, but 10,000.
Do you think that was real, 10,000?
That was like, that's the legend,
yeah,
right, of Wilt. And it's like, that's almost statistically impossible.
I mean, that's just, okay, first of all,
you don't have time for a nap.
I was going to say, first of all, it's just beyond the idea of, like, that's just gross.
Yes,
and,
yes, besides all of that.
Like, that's one thing. But just, how do you, do you have to schedule appointments, or, like, do you literally just have to, like, go onto the street and be like, hey, you, come with me?
I've got a 6 o'clock, we got to get this in.
Because otherwise, I just don't even see how, like, because apparently, Annie says she goes on dating apps and finds a lot of her people.
Oh, boy.
So, like, I guess you just have to, like, learn how to build up a schedule in a way like that.
Well, my question for Annie is, why do you announce this? Like, why is this just for the OnlyFans? Is this does she think this is going to make her more profitable in that space by bragging about this? Because if it's true, you nailed it in your postscript, if you will. like you need to go talk to some people outside of the people that you're spending your time with.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are obviously looking for fame and in their 15 minutes, and I think for her this is her way of getting her 15 minutes, but it's just really disgusting, and I think she doesn't realize the huge disservice she's doing to herself for later on in life when she does realize.
Well, because those are real conversations you have with people that you actually end up spending time with.
Yeah.
Like, you don't necessarily want to go into the sordid past, but if you're bragging on OnlyFans,
all they have to do is a quick Google search, and then they find out, okay, actually you lied to me. It wasn't your 15 people like you said. It was actually 5,000.
315
in 1 year. Okay.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Chad, you remember the days? Let's feel old for a moment.
Okay.
Do you remember back in the day when the World Series was starting and you would sit in class or you would sit around on a weekend waiting on first pitch, waiting on the lights, waiting on Costas to crack the mic?
So I'm closing my eyes, going back to a simpler time and place.
I know Michael McHenry knows what I'm talking about, too.
Eating Bluebell ice cream on a front porch.
Oh, wow. There you go. Popcorn for me.
Well, tastes delicious.
Michael McHenry joins us on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network, previewing the World Series with the former major leaguer and now MLB analyst. Fort, good to see you, man. Hope things are well.
Hey, good to see you guys. And Chad, don't feel bad. I was eating Doritos. I was the fat kid, too.
Yeah, no,
right. We grew out of it.
Calorie intake has never been a big concern of mine. So I was whatever the bigger caloric intake, that's what I was having.
Hud eating the popcorn. He watched his figure at a young age.
Yeah, he was already a
popcorn
vegetarian
and sweet tea
by then. Yeah,
popcorn and sweet tea. Hey,
true Southerner. I love it.
I don't mean to be a downer here. Will you please hype me up for the World Series?
Give us a
right
sales
now?
pitch on why we should watch this.
Honestly, I can't. I mean, I think if you're a true baseball fan, you have to look at this and say the system worked. Two wild card teams. It's only the third time ever since they've introduced that wild card playoff platform. I think you have to look at this as this is true baseball. I mean, you look at the Diamondbacks. I mean, there's not a wow factor, but one of the best young players in all of baseball is on that team. You have Longoria, who has not seen the World Series in 15 years, since 2008. So he hasn't seen the World Series since one of his first seasons in baseball. Now, 15 years later, he's living at home and he gets to go to the World Series. You have Will Smith, who's pitched in his third World Series on 3 different teams. Bruce Bochy going for history, a Hall of Fame manager. There's no doubt in my mind as soon as he retires, he's going to go straight to it. Dusty Baker just retired. It's a wild time for baseball, but I think if you just watch it, I think you're going to enjoy what you see because it's going to be a good brand of baseball, a lot of excitement. You have a lot of exciting players on the Texas side. You have a lot of players on Arizona side that's different, but you're going to see defense. You're going to see pitching. You may even see some big swings, but 2 completely different animals when you talk about teams.
Yeah, and I mean, I like the sales pitch there, even though I don't think you tried. Well, you said you couldn't flip me, but I want to be I want to be enthralled with this because when you say it's pure baseball, would Philly, Texas have been the same for you or no?
No, I think you're going to see, when you see 2 juggernauts come together, teams that are built very similar. When you think about up and down the lineup, you're not going to have a lot of speed. You're not going to have a lot of running. You're not going to have a lot of maybe 2-strike hits and bunting, some of the things that we just do not see anymore. I mean, because of analytics, the game has really changed. You're seeing a lot of true outcomes. The Schwarbers of the world are going to be more and more until they start to push back or even change the way they pay these guys, because the long ball, the walk, the OPS, the weight con, all that stuff matters. It matters to the people in the front office. It matters to players. That's how they're going to get paid. And the swing and miss, at the same token, is the exact same when you think about the defensive side. Those guys want to get the swing and miss because that's a true outcome. They can control that a little bit more. But now we're going to see great defense on the Diamondback side, an incredible bullpen, starters that could get deep into ball games, especially those first couple up front in Montgomery. Evaldi. And then on the Arizona side, the Zach Gallion, I think he's going to really trend in the right direction going into tonight. So it's going to be fun to watch. I think it's going to be a good series, and it gives hope to all the small market teams.
There's no doubt the hope factor rings true with Major League Baseball postseason this year. Let's go a little bit big picture, though, on this, because I think you're right for it when you say, oh, it showed that the new system worked, right, with the wild card teams getting in and advancing. I just see it the opposite. And I get it if you're fans of one of those teams, right? They're not exactly the top payrolls in baseball. In fact, one is one of the lower payrolls in baseball with Arizona. But one thing I like about the NBA system is typically it leads to the two best teams in the finals, right? With a number of 7-game series and the nature of the sport and everything. You can't change the nature of the game of baseball. Right? There's going to be some breaks that don't go your way. That's part of the game. I understand all of that. But when I see Rangers Diamondbacks, I don't think let's get more wild card in there. I think let's have the National League champion play the American League champion at the end of 162 games and not play playoff series altogether. And let's get to the two best teams that way in the end. And then we're really going to care about the World Series. We won't have other playoff series to look at, but at least we'll get the two best teams at the end of the year. I know that's extreme, but I do think there's two different ways to look at this, from the underdog startup to the what does America really want to see. Do they want to see the team that was best from April till October, or do they want to see the team that got in the playoffs because the Chicago Cubs outfielder couldn't field a routine fly ball against the Braves in late September, and that's the reason they got in as a wild card team?
Yeah, I could fall in line definitely with the NBA style playoff format. Let the best team play the worst team, throw out the divisional series winners. Great. You did a great job this season, the full length season. You win. Here's your ring. Congratulations. Now, who's got the best record? National League, American League, put them at the very top, make your pools, and at the very end, who's left? There's no breaks. It's continued play, just like the season. And I think that would be way better. I mean, if you're at the bottom of the barrel and you end up beating the juggernaut, good for you. It's almost like an NCAA format. I like that format. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And then ultimately, you kind of give everybody the same dealing hand and you go into it, but you're favored if you're a top team. And that makes that season, I think, matter more. I mean, the teams, I don't really think about the divisional series. Yes, it's a pat on the back, but you don't get a ring. You get in the playoffs, but you have that lull, which I think hurts a lot of teams. It did the Atlanta Braves, especially in today's game with the true outcome. It makes it very tough because there's a lot more swing and miss.
Which manager was most clutch throughout your career, and what does it say that Bochy has lost one elimination game so far, ever?
He's remarkable, and I was actually today talking to Clint Hurdle, so I'm going to use him as a great example, and he actually brought up that Bochy's going to be in the HOV lane right to the HOF lane. Yeah. And I thought that was a really, really cool way to put it, because that's a special breed, and there's 3 guys that he mentioned, and it was Bochy, Terry Francona, and Baker. They're all leaving, and they're all going to go straight to the Hall of Fame on that HOV lane. I thought that was really cool. And he's a guy that, he's really grown over his time. I had him in 2 different spots, so I got to see him manage different. And there's a guy that's with Arizona, the Diamondbacks bench coach, and Jeff Bannister. I'm going to get him on here for you guys at some point, because he is a great mind, a great human, and he thinks things differently. He never thinks he's right. He's always questioning, hey, where am I at? Is this the right answer? And he's always trying to figure out ways to pull out the best in people. And I think that's what we're going to see on that side. And Bochy is obviously a wizard at it. When he gets into big moments, he seems to elevate people in a way you don't really understand and see things that other people don't, like what he did with Madison Bumgarner. I believe it was in 15 when those guys took off and he just pitched and pitched and pitched. Of course, you want the ball, but you have to be kind of in a balance as a manager to understand, is it the time to give him the ball? Should I give him the ball? I don't want to hurt him. And the other day when he took out Max Scherzer at 34 pitches, Max Scherzer looked elite. He looked back to normal, which should be scary for Arizona, but he took him out because he knew there was a bigger pitcher and he cared about that human being.
Bruce Bochy did pretty well going from San Diego, taking that franchise to a World Series, to 3 titles with San Francisco. Now we got another manager making the transition from San Diego to San Francisco with Bob Melvin. What do you make of San Diego not stopping a division rival from interviewing their active manager and saying, yeah, if you want to go there, go ahead? I don't know what signal that sends the Giants other than San Diego certainly doesn't think this guy's all that good.
I mean, I don't know if San Diego can take any more punches. I mean, they're probably going to have to trade Soto. There's a lot of things going on, but you talk about a team that had almost everything you could ask for on paper. I mean, they had pitching, they had speed, they had a bullpen, they had just elite caliber players all the way around them. They had a good front office, and you thought for sure this team's going to put together and take off, and they didn't. And they're going to have a Cy Young Award winner. They're going to have MVP votes with two different guys, and they didn't win their division. And now they're watching the Arizona Diamondbacks, who were in their division, play for the World Series. They lose their manager. It has got to be an absolute punch in the face, and I'll be interesting to see how they respond, because when you get knocked down, I believe the way you get back up and take that next step tells a whole lot about who you are.
The Rangers lineup, 20 runs scored over the last 2 games. Meanwhile, when Carroll for the Diamondbacks is on, that lineup is a lot better at the plate, and they put up some runs, and they can jump out early. Who has the advantage going into this, knowing that Texas has won on the road against Houston?
Honestly, I think Texas has the advantage because of Bochy. I mean, that's the biggest advantage in the room. And you look at this entire playoff mix this year, the teams on the road have generally played better. And I go back to, I think it's the emotional side of it. I think at home, you're getting overwhelmed with family, friends, asking for tickets, all the extra media that you have to deal with. And I think when they go on the road, they almost get a chance to kind of sit back and relax a little bit. So I think when you look at this matchup, Texas closing the roof tonight and having a chance to maybe kind of restart or restructure that home advantage, I think Texas has a huge advantage, especially with Bochy and Max Scherzer now in the mix. If you can keep their bullpen out of it and get enough of that offense going, I think they're going to be right out in front.
Does MLB control if the roof is open or closed, or is it the home team?
Yeah, the MLB, once playoff starts, they control all of that. So, just by closing that roof, you're talking about the decibels of how loud it's going to be. It's going to go through the roof, and that's a big ballpark and indoors. It's going to be exciting for any fan that's there, but it's going to be loud, and I mean extremely loud, to the point where I've heard that you can't even hear the pitch comm. So the pitch comm's what stays in your helmet or your hat while you're calling pitches. And not only the pitcher catcher use that, but also the infield and the outfield to position. So those guys are going to have a hard time hearing. So it's a huge advantage.
Michael McHenry with us. What do you think of when you think of Dusty Baker?
Legend. Honestly, I'll never forget. I was taking my wife to a dinner. I think it was our anniversary dinner. I wasn't playing that much at the end of my first season with Pittsburgh. And lo and behold, I see Dusty Baker, and I'm trying not to like maybe ooh and ah at him a little bit, because I'm a rookie, and I always thought the world of him with his wristbands in Chicago. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at him, and he just says, "Hey, you," and he just waved me over, and I was like, okay. So I just kind of walked over, and he made sure my wife came over too, and he just sat me down and gave me advice about my career and what I should, look for, and what opportunities I should try to take, and don't ever allow anybody to tell me what I can be or can't be. And I'll never forget it. So that was somebody that I didn't know, never met, played a couple series against him in Pittsburgh. And he took the time at dinner with his other coaches to pull me over and have a conversation with me. So I think he's a legend. He's a player first manager. And I think if nothing else, you can never say that Dusty Baker's not an incredible human being.
Did he have a toothpick in?
He sure did. Always.
That's awesome.
The one question I meant to ask him this year is when he wore a mask for 2 seasons, did he have a toothpick underneath? Or did he have to poke a hole sometimes, right? I mean,
that would be great if he had the hole poked out just for the toothpick, just in the one spot. You'd really only work that one groove, though, between the teeth if you had the one spot in the mask. You
would think it would wear a hole in it eventually.
Yeah, Dusty Baker, though, is his retirement, and I know for all three of us, makes me think about sort of the end of a long era, right? Of him being around the game and managing different teams, and such a cool personality and part of the game. And I love stories like that for it, because baseball is such a sport with so much kind of downtime around it that it lends itself to guys that give younger guys advice, or managers talking to young players, conversations. You don't get that in every sport. I feel like there's a higher percentage of guys like Dusty Baker that'll pull a young Michael McHenry aside and talk to him, as opposed to maybe some other sports where you either don't have the time to do it or you just don't have that as much.
Yeah, and I think what you just said, Chad, it's kind of ending an era of guys that after a game they would kind of debrief in the clubhouse or go to dinner late and talk about the game, have a beer, have a cigar, and be ready to go the next day. But more importantly, leave it at the ballpark. And I think we've lost that. I think we've lost that in society, and we've for sure lost it in sport because it's become so individualized, whether it's a stat, whether it's this, whether it's fantasy or betting, it seems to always be individualized, but it's still team sport. That's what I love about baseball. That's why this series could be romantic if you love the game, because it shows, hey, the best two players on Texas's team didn't play for the majority of the season. When you think about Max Scherzer and DeGrom not pitching, I mean, that's huge. And then you also have a former player being a GM, which I absolutely adore. And then you go to Arizona side. Nobody thought this was going to happen. Nobody thought 100-loss season on both sides. We're going to end up in the World Series a year later. It's remarkable. I love the team aspect. And when you come together like this, it's a lot of fun. I hope it maybe trickles back in with a little bit of light.
He's the Fort, Michael McHenry. You can follow him on social at the Fort McHenry. Enjoy the World Series. I'm going to tune in. I just don't. I want to be enthralled in a long.
I'm for the Rangers. Yeah,
I want a long series. You know, I'm here for the moment.
Ford, I'm just happy the Phillies lost. Quite honestly, that was my World Series. That Game 7 and those sad Philly fans. That was my World Series right there. That's as happy as I could be this postseason. Was when the Diamondbacks beat the Phillies.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Ford.
All right, you guys too. I appreciate it. God bless.
Same to you, Michael McHenry. Always great. We'll catch up with him next week on how the series has progressed.
It's all downhill once the Phillies lost for me, Hud. I'm fine now, but I am for the Rangers. I wanted to make good on that 2011 choke job.
If you're on an uphill climb, we've got fantasy football advice with Michael Fabiano next.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see like senile, not all there, probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay. Why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Hell yeah, baby. I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well.
Yeah.
And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Always great on a Friday at 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine.
Festive. Every
Hunt
Friday.
Night with Hutton and Withrow rolls on.
Got the band playing out there.
Yep.
They go from George Strait. I walked in today, Hutton, blaring from the speakers before the band played. Creed, Higher.
Wow.
I mean, the
that was Davey Hudson's entrance music.
The first chords hit as I walked through the entrance at 6th and Peabody, and I said, it's going to be a hell of a day. If Creed is playing, serenading me, the lovely sounds of Scott Stapp as I walk in, then it's going to be a heck of a day.
I sent Davey on Instagram a video of a Halloween costume. It's someone as Scott Stapp at halftime in a Cowboys jersey doing the halftime show for the Dallas Cowboys.
They've got the performance on the TV in the background, too, and they're mimicking the entire performance. It's well done.
Michael Fabiano joins us, the Sports Illustrated senior fantasy analyst. He gets it done for us week in and week out, and our viewers and listeners as well. Michael, always great to see you, man. Hope things are well.
Yeah, last week was rough. I'm not going to lie, between Buymageddon and everything going sideways. But hopefully I can take you and the audience higher this week. Sorry.
Our arms are wide open for that,
resist.
okay?
Yeah, well played.
Yes.
And well played, Hutton, with wide open. I'm trying to think of the other big Creed songs now. I got nothing. That's it.
My Sacrifice.
Davey chimes in for the peanut gallery.
Davey Hudson, by the way, Michael,
Sacrifice.
is a massive Creed fan, and he's over here just pissed off that we can't come up with a third song. So, My Sacrifice is what he's yelling
Dalton Kincaid in for Zach Ertz for me was a great My Sacrifice for this week so far. That paid off.
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid's I said when Dawson Knox got put on IR that Dalton Kincaid's going to be a top 12 tight end as long as Knox is out of action. And he certainly was great last night. A lot of good performances from a fantasy perspective. I mean, Gabe Davis, who is literally all or nothing. Like, he either gives you 20 or gives you 2. He had a big game. You know, Diggs had a big game. Josh Allen always has big games. And even on the other side, Chris Godwin was good. Rashad White. That's a player that if the Buccaneers continue to utilize him like they had the last couple of weeks, which is more as a pass catcher, he's going to be more valuable heading into the fantasy playoffs as we get down the stretch of the season than he has been in the first half, because they can't run the ball. But if you can catch it like that and they're going to target him that many times, Rashad White's value is going up.
Got your Fabs 5 coming up in just a moment. I've got a surprise stardom I want to get your take on. You may hate it, but I'll add this in a moment. But any players that you would be looking at to make a move for prior to the deadline, after Week 8 and on Tuesday for the trade deadline in the league?
See, there's so many players that are rumored to be traded, but you never know what's going to happen. Like, for example, Derrick Henry. Would they really move him? I don't know. If you went to Cleveland or Baltimore, that'd be fantastic. Zach Moss, Javonte Williams, same kind of thing. I would love to see those guys get traded. Doesn't necessarily mean that they will. Nuke Hopkins, Titans. I mean, they seem to be tanking already. I mean, they're going to start Will Levis this week. You know, they made a trade. This is a team that seems to already be looking ahead to 2024. I'd love to see Nuke Hopkins go someplace else, but if he doesn't, that'd be a scary proposition to trade for him, because right now the quarterback position's shaky at best, and you know Nuke's kind of fallen into that curse of veteran tight end or wide receivers who go to the Titans, like Randy Moss and Andre Johnson, and more recently Julio Jones, who just can't get the job done. I'm kind of hoping Jerry Jeudy gets traded. That will open things up for Marvin Mims, who, if he's out there on the waiver wire, you can make a speculative ad with him. Potentially Cortland Sutton gets dealt as well. Who knows? But those are some of the players that I think you can potentially see getting dealt. I would love to see Devontae Adams get the hell out of Las Vegas, just for selfish purposes, because I've got a couple shares of him, and that quarterback situation is a mess. But the Raiders have said that they don't have any plans to trade him. So I guess we're kind of stuck with him in Sin City for the remainder of the season, but who knows?
And I've never looked at it from that angle, but maybe consider the backups to a player who could be traded. That could also be a waiver move to make.
Tajay Spears, for example. Yes. Right, exactly. Like in Tennessee, although he's probably owned in most leagues, at least most competitive leagues out there. So yeah, you can make speculative ads like that, like Mims, like Spears, and see what happens on Halloween, which is the trade deadline.
Fabs 5, start them, sit them. Let's dive in with, and you're starting with Detroit quarterback Jared Goff.
And you guys know why. He's playing at home. It might seem, just like so obvious, but I mean, Jared Goff is not good typically on the road. Last week, very bad. And he's great at home, and he's got the Raiders this week, and the Lions have a bye after the game. So I think they want to come out there and end the first half on a high note there after getting beaten pretty badly by Baltimore in their last game. So Jared Goff's a very good start. Isaiah Pacheco's been solid. He's getting 17 touches a game, somewhere in that neighborhood. He had almost 16 points against the Broncos last time they played a few weeks ago. Speaking of the Lions, Jahmyr Gibbs, you'll play him right now while David Montgomery is out. Again, Raiders, really good matchup. Gibbs was very good from a fantasy perspective last week. Christian Kirk's been solid, 14.7 points per game. Playing the Steelers this week. The Steelers are not good against wide receivers. I think Christian Kirk has a big game. And Terry McLaurin, I love trends. And this trend is something that I found a year or two ago. Terry McLaurin owns the Eagles. I don't know why. He just does. They're bad against perimeter receivers. The last time they played each other was earlier this season. McLaurin had a big game against them, including recovering a fumble for a touchdown of all things. So start Terry McLaurin this week in a home game for the Commanders. I think they'll be much better than they were last week against the Giants.
So my stardom, maybe I'm crazy here, but again, I don't have great options at quarterback. I'm starting Desmond Ridder without hesitation against this Titans defense. Do you agree?
The Titans defense is good against the run and bad against the pass. So the matchup is right. With that being said, the fact that you said you would start Desmond Ridder without hesitation, my friend, you are far braver than I am.
Well,
I'll tell you that right now.
My other option,
without hesitation, I have a lot of hesitation with Desmond Ridder, but I mean, if he's your best option, at least the matchup's right.
I'm 6-1 in this league, Michael, and I have.
Well, listen,
I have Ridder. I have Ridder.
I should bow down to you.
No.
I'm not gonna.
No. I'm just saying, without
listen
hesitation.
to his options before you get on.
It's Ridder, and Gardner Minshew, and I've got this. They're my third option now after starting with Rodgers and then Richardson.
16-team league. 16-team league. Keep that in mind also.
But I made this move as if I've already seen his fantasy week played. I as soon as the week flipped over from week 7 to week 8, Ridder was my starter over Minshew, and that's after Minshew played well a week ago.
I will say this: being 6-1 with those quarterbacks.
Thank you.
You're doing something else right, my friend.
Very lucky.
Running backs, wide receivers, tight ends.
That's it.
You're making good moves.
That's it. And I had Rodgers at one point for 4 plays.
Yeah, it was a great 4 plays.
Yeah,
though.
It was amazing.
Exciting 4 plays. I actually, with that game, I picked up the Falcons defense going against the rookie quarterback Malik Willis rotation for the Titans. Do you like that pickup?
Yeah, I do. And there's certainly some defenses out there that you could stream. Atlanta may be at the top of the list. Detroit against the Las Vegas Raiders this week. Also a good look at home. But yeah, Atlanta's defense is one of the best streamers of the week, whether you're in DFS or traditional fantasy leagues.
Without hesitation, who are you sitting this week?
Russell Wilson against the Chiefs. The last time they played each other, you remember it was not good for Russell. He's been bad lately. Chiefs defense, I don't know if it's that they're really this good or they just haven't played anybody or maybe a combination of both, but they've been tough on quarterbacks. Brian Robinson's got the Eagles this week. They're giving up 3.3 yards per rush to running backs. They are very tough to run against. Robinson will have to do something as a pass catcher to have a decent fantasy week. Darrell Henderson against my beloved Dallas Cowboys. He had a good game last week, got a lot of volume. Royce Freeman got some touches as well. But the Cowboys have allowed just one running back to beat them for more than 13.8 points this season. So Henderson's probably a flex this week, assuming he's the starter for the Rams again. I mentioned Nuke Hopkins. I want nothing to do with him. Atlanta's given up the fewest points per game to perimeter receivers. Will Levis, Malik Willis. I mean, listen, do I need to go any further than that? And it looks like they could get Treylon Burks back this week, which means even fewer opportunities potentially for Nuke Hopkins. And then Amari Cooper, I know you probably got to play him. I get it. But they got PJ Walker quarterback. And again, the Browns are week in and week out, I think, regretting that Deshaun Watson trade more and more and more. Amari Cooper is a flex starter at best this week against Seattle. And Seattle's defense is actually another one that you could stream this week with PJ Walker at quarterback for the Browns.
So Chris Olave arrested for reckless driving. Would you go with him or Christian Watson if you had the choice this week?
I'd probably go with Olave. Christian Watson's really not done much. From a fantasy perspective, he's gotten into the end zone here and there, but he hasn't really done that much. Did you watch the video? Olave was like, "Hey man, I play for the Saints," and the police officer was like, "And?"
that always works out well. Do you know who I am when you're getting in trouble? It works every time.
I'm leaving CVS and I'm driving 70 to 30.
The Saints.
Yeah,
and I mean, the Saints aren't that good. I'm sure the fans really aren't real thrilled about New Orleans right now. But no, I'd stick with Olave, though, in that situation.
So here's a real-time adjustment by me. I hear Michael Fabiano on this show telling me to sit Nuke Hopkins. I do so. So who should I play on my roster? I'm sitting Nuke Hopkins. Do I go with Rashee Rice of the Chiefs at Denver or Jackson Smith and Jigba at home against Cleveland for Seattle?
I'm going Rashee Rice. Now, that comes with a caveat. We don't know what Tyler Lockett's practice status was for today yet, because obviously, they're a West Coast team. They're playing on the West Coast this week. I don't know exactly if Lockett plays or not. If Lockett is out, I'm going with Jackson Smith and Jigba. If Lockett is a go because DK Metcalf's going to play this week, then I'm going to sit Jackson Smith in that matchup against the Browns, which is not a great matchup, but he was good last week, and if Lockett can't go, he would see more opportunities in the passing game. So I think you're in a sit and wait scenario, but honestly, both options are probably better than DeAndre Hopkins in a best case scenario where Lockett doesn't play and Jackson Smith and Jigba is paired with DK in that offense against Cleveland.
It feels like Rice is good for a touchdown a week right now too from Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, he's been pretty good. He's been a pleasant surprise on a team that is very hard to decipher which wide receiver to start on a weekly basis. And to be quite honest with you, I think right now Rashee Rice is the only Chiefs wide receiver that you can start with confidence.
Travis Etienne maybe flourishing on the scene more than what you expected prior to the start of the season.
Yeah, I thought he'd be good. I didn't think he'd be, a top 3 or 5 fantasy running back. So he's been fantastic. But it seems to have come at the expense of Trevor Lawrence because we all thought Lawrence would have a better year this year than he did last year. And last year was a good year, but he hasn't. I mean, his ceiling's been 17 or 18 points. His floor is not awful, but Etienne's been great. But Trevor Lawrence has not lived up to expectations from a fantasy standpoint, at least at this point. Maybe he'll turn things on in the second half. But yeah, if you got Etienne, he was probably, a third round pick, somewhere in that ballpark. You're probably feeling pretty good about yourself because you got a week in and week out starter.
Our guy Tyler Castle asked Roschon Johnson or Deontay Foreman for the Bears this weekend.
Yeah, good question. So the last I heard, Roschon Johnson had been practicing but had not cleared concussion protocol yet. So I still have Foreman ranked higher. My guess is that if both are active, it will be a split backfield, in which case it's anybody's guess who would be the guy. I'd probably go with Foreman because he's been good the last couple of weeks, especially last week with the 3 touchdowns. Maybe the Bears try to ease Roschon into it. But keep in mind, Darrington Evans, who, this guy came off the street. He had double-digit carries last week. So this is not just like the Deontay Foreman show. They are still using a committee, and whether it's Johnson or Evans next week, with Foreman, it will be a committee.
So I can't pick up Tyson Bagent, by the way. I could go Sam Darnold, but I'm hesitant because Purdy's trying to clear concussion protocol. It's a 3:25 Central kickoff, and my other 2 quarterbacks play at noon.
My guess is that it will be Darnold who will play, because typically when a player has gotten a concussion, he has not played the following week. And I think the only outlier was Luke Musgrave, but he was concussed on a Thursday, and so he had more time to clear protocol.
There's also Tua, but yes.
Well, I mean, if you've got Tua, I mean, you've got
No.
Well,
I'm saying Tua also
yeah.
cleared concussion protocol. Apparently, yeah.
So,
yes, you're right.
So my guess would be no Brock. I'd go Darnold.
Okay. I'm going to get rid of Minshew then, I guess.
Never.
I don't know that I'm
you.
getting rid of Minshew because if it's on that 16 team,
it is.
I mean, that's because you may get Darnold for a week and that's it, right? Because Purdy's going to get the job back, I would assume, in San Francisco's next game. So if there's somebody else that you can drop that's not valuable, then I would go in that direction. But I don't want to cut Minshew because listening to the quarterbacks that you have, you're going to need them the rest of the season.
Michael Fabiano, the very best of fantasy football. We've got headlines next on OutKick.
Welcome into OutKick, the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I made the call to end the Me Too movement. And today I'm going to continue making that case. And that's just a way to further taunt these women, to make them feel less than, to make them realize that this has just become a big joke. Deion Sanders is the Donald Trump of football.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Just like that, the second hour is here, Friday edition. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. Chad, made it to Friday.
We did.
Big games coming up this weekend. We'll have Withrow's top 10 games of the college football weekend in hour number 3. So we're an hour and a half away from that. Can't wait.
You know what Matty Ice told me earlier this week when we came in here on Monday? He said, you guys don't have what it takes. You're colossal failures. There's no way in hell you're going to make it all the way to Friday's show.
Yeah.
And guess what we did once again for the whatever week this is of the year? We
Matty
proved them
Ice
wrong
looked at
once
us
again.
and said, you know what? I'm not going to post your show on X. That's
He
what
said no. Well, only once.
Only once.
The compromise when he said I'm not going to post the show at all was we said, Matt, just please post it once. One time is all we want. That's all we need. That's all we ask for. Just one time, and let's see if people repost it. And you know what Matt did? He said, just this once. Just this once, I'll post it once. That's it. That's all he gave us. That's all he'll do. But he mocked us. He said we wouldn't reach the finish line. And here we are, everyone. Look at us right here in the flesh. 2 dudes still hosting a show. End of the week, Friday, bringing you solid information and entertainment. Not leaving, still here, hanging out. So to Matty Ice and everyone else who doubted us, I say goodbye. Also, since we're in the bragging part of the show, I'd like to brag on my 8U softball team who won the championship last night and finished 16-0 undefeated. Yes, thank you very much.
The true domination.
They also said we couldn't get to that undefeated mark, but my girls proved them wrong. I'm going to bring it in for show and tell on Monday, but huge shout out to Finley on my team, my second baseman, first year ever playing softball. Got an older brother who's a travel baseball player, and usually on the weekends with her older brother watching him play. Good athlete, going to be a good ball player. She made me a ring at home, something made of like little rubber bands, and it's gold. And she told me before the game, I got there 10 minutes to spare after the show. She said, Coach, this is your ring. It's gold for first place. If we win tonight, I want you to wear it. And I said, I'm putting it right here in my left pocket. And if we win this game, Finley, I promise you I'll wear it. Umpire says ball game, and immediately Finley comes up and says, Coach, put that ring on. Put that ring on, that championship ring. And that's exactly what I did for Finley. Congrats to the Little Red Sox on 16-0 and a championship.
You take them out for ice cream or?
We're going to have a little. I have gotten in touch with before. I've paid for McDonald's twice, last year's team and this year's. I'm investing in kind of a pizza gathering. There's a local pizza joint where I live that has a private room. I'm investigating that.
Okay.
And there's a minimum. You know, it's kind of like renting out a room or going to a bar, right? There's a minimum pay. Parents are okay with it. We're going to have a banquet. I'm going to give every player some sort of like certificate of what they were best at on the team. So I'm going to get creative and come up with not just, best sportsmanship or whatever, but kind of have jokes with each one and present each player with a certificate. And I told one of the parents was contemplating not going to the event because her daughter had a basketball practice that night. And I said, that basketball practice will lead to other basketball practices and games. You have one chance to celebrate with your teammates an undefeated championship season. And I say this without joking. It probably will never happen again for any of these kids. I mean, everyone listening or watching right now, think about how many undefeated championships you won in your life. I can't think of a single one. And I played a lot of sports and played in a lot of leagues growing up. I can't remember full regular season, full tournament, not losing a single game in anything. We had good teams. I won a couple of championships in a league, finished second a bunch in high school in almost everything. But I can't recall undefeated championships. So I want the Little Red Sox to cherish this moment and for everyone to join me for pizza when we have our banquet.
Have you considered a trophy, or I have an idea. How many?
Does it involve me spending money?
Well, you'll have to spend more money if you coach again.
That's true.
How many softballs do you have for practices?
I've got a bucket of probably 25 softballs.
I think they should all get a softball, and you should inscribe the record in the year. And
That's
they've got a ball from
good.
the year instead of, and give them something to mount the softball on.
That's good. I should just go steal the game balls from the league that I'm in.
You can have them all sign it.
And I can get
each one of them.
I can get 10 of them. There's 10 players left on our team right now. just still 10 game balls. And right now they all do own a game ball. Like I make sure to go through the whole team, getting a game ball throughout the season. And then some girls get duplicates. I think one girl has 3 game balls on our team, just because once I give it away to everyone, I give it to the best performance of the night when we're done. So that's a good idea, Hutton. Maybe I'll personally inscribe a message to every player on the team with a game ball commemorating the 16-0 season. It's like the Sports Illustrated thing, the moment the World Series is happening. Right now, you can get your commemorative Texas Rangers World Champion Baseball. They have the commercial ready to go when the last out happens.
Like the T-shirts.
Get your commemorative Sports Illustrated issue right now of your Boston Bruins Stanley Cup champions. Maybe I should do something like that for this undefeated team.
Glad you're with us across the OutKick Network. Chad, I am in the chat with you right now.
Thank you for letting me brag.
They wanted to know about, absolutely. They wanted to know if it was bot Hutton. And I said, no, this is me. I'm about to shout you guys out. And then I said, this is actually Zimbabwe Hutton.
Yes.
I'm waving my flag right now in the chat.
Well, that's how you know it's the real Hutton, though, is when he puts the flag of Zimbabwe there. That's like his calling card everywhere he goes. He constantly texts me with that flag. So I know that I'm not being catfished, and then I'm getting the actual Jonathan Hutton when I get the flag of Zimbabwe.
Davey Hudson has a flag that he has flown on social media today. It's quite the post.
It's a theory, but, I joke. Really, I don't joke. I mean, the Heisman's been dead since 1997 when I really think about it. This award is something that...
I thought you meant since Reggie Bush.
No, it goes back before that. The only good thing about
with O.J. Simpson?
Yes, the only good thing that has come from Charles Woodson winning the Heisman is Norm Macdonald's ESPY speech, where he basically said, congratulations, Charles. That's something no one can ever take away from you. Unless you kill your wife and a waiter, then all bets are off. But I bring it up because...
Best ESPY's monologue of all time, by the way, start to finish, was Norm Macdonald.
And ESPN execs
it's a good monologue when no one laughs. Or even tries to fake laugh, which is a very difficult crowd to even get to laugh. But when you have no one laughing, that's the perfect monologue.
I give Charles Woodson full credit,
in the hands of,
some just have no sense of humor about themselves. Charles Woodson laughed at that joke and was trying not to laugh as hard as he was with the O.J. Simpson joke. So I give him full marks for at least laughing at the Norm Macdonald line about O.J. Simpson murdering his wife and a waiter.
Yes, but that should have never happened because that award should have been given to Peyton Manning, who was by far the best player during the 1997 season. And it just so happened Lee Corso, a bunch of other losers, talked up Charles Woodson, and they gave him the award, even though Charles wasn't even the best defensive player that year.
No, but the voters are watching game day.
Yeah, and so now, we're kind of thinking about the scandal that's going on with Michigan. And I'm sitting there, and I've bought into the theory that South Carolina had the plays. Again, I can't prove that. It's just something based off all the circumstantial evidence that I choose to believe. That's just my opinion. And now that I'm thinking about it, I was talking with you, Hutton, the other day about, as a Tennessee fan, one of the things I was getting from that game was, well, we probably wouldn't have made the college football playoff anyway because they wouldn't have put a one-loss Tennessee team without Hendon Hooker into the Final Four teams. But now you look at it, and it's like, let's say Tennessee's not having to play catch-up the entire time, and they're able to rest Hooker like they were for most fourth quarters. They're late in the season. Well, if that's the case, Hendon Hooker, before going down, was one of the top Heisman candidates, and let's say he stays healthy, Tennessee's getting into the college football playoff. Who knows what happens, because it really was last year. We just kind of look at it, and it's like,
we didn't see Milton all that much last year.
No, we saw him
until he had to start.
Vanderbilt game.
But even in boat races, by and large, Hooker played because he's going for the Heisman. So he would not have been benched in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they were padding it.
And I said, Chad, I don't know if you agree. Had Tennessee won that game, let's just hypothetically say they go on to win their final games. I think they would have been in Alabama's spot in the 5th spot.
Well,
given the injury and how they factor
Davey, we'll
that
let you finish where you were going with that.
Yeah.
But he's definitely a finalist. He's in New York.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
If the injury doesn't happen. So continue.
And I mean, we'll never know what would have happened, but it's just led me to think like Tennessee fans, once again, like a Michigan guy, Michigan's the reason why they potentially lose out on a second Heisman, which the school's had 2 players finished 3 times as Tennessee's finished twice in the Heisman voting. But the bigger thing for me here is just J.J. McCarthy is now ineligible for the Heisman. He's currently the betting favorite, but I don't see how voters are going to be able to vote him knowing there's a high likelihood. It's a lot easier to do well when you know what the other team's going to do. And when you cheat to get that information, makes it pretty simple that, hey, I can't trust that this guy's actually that good because he's got an advantage no one else does.
Yeah, Johnny Majors, Heath Schuler, Peyton Manning are the three to finish second in the Heisman. I'm bought into this theory also. I have no way of proving it. I'm just looking at the hard facts of what those games look like in back-to-back weeks and what South Carolina's looked like every other game of last season and now this season also. And it's very suspicious, and now you're actually getting reports out that at least the accusation or what people are claiming is that Michigan not only was trying to affect their own games, they were trying to eliminate the pecking order ahead of them for the college football playoff with some of their intel that they had gathered.
I saw prime time.
It's a great tweet.
Or prime
or post or whatever you call
career Tom Landry on the sideline for 2 games, and that's the only time I've seen him since, if you catch my drift on that.
Here's what else I want to go away with all of this. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Michigan's the the dirtiest program of all time or this and that. Like, there's going to be another scandal. In a month with another program, we're going to see that too. But here's what has been eliminated under Jim Harbaugh's reign with these controversies. I don't want to hear about a Michigan man again, okay? You are in the muck of college sports and college football. You're not better. You don't have more integrity. You don't have higher principles. There is no such thing as a quote-unquote Michigan man anymore. You're just like the rest of us. The rest of us poor schlups that love college football so much. And that wants to win at all costs. That's what you are. So even with the Jim Harbaugh statement of, we do everything with the utmost integrity here at Michigan, save it. Yeah. Just save it. I don't want to hear about your Michigan men. I don't want to hear about how you're better than Ohio State. I don't want to hear. You're the same. You're doing everything you can to win football games. You're cutting corners. You're sending U.S. Naval Academy grads out to scout illegally. You're doing everything possible to win. You're no better than the SEC. You're no better than Ohio State. You're not classier. You don't have more integrity. Michigan men, done. Let's not hear that again.
And what I hear there, Chad, is you saying the argument would be they're better or classier because they're not doing the things that those schools that you just mentioned would be doing behind the scenes that everyone's doing. They're a part of that group. They no longer have that argument.
You guys.
They've lost the moral high ground.
Yes.
I think that they believe they've possessed for a while over Ohio State or other programs. We're a better school, and they are academically a better school than most of those around them, but we're Michigan men. Oh, we wouldn't do that. We have higher standards than that. We rise above it. We're not trashy. We're not this. We wouldn't cheat. We wouldn't do – no. If everything that's out there right now and the video evidence that's out there, no, you're just like, I'm not saying you're worse, right? I'm not going to sit here and claim other programs haven't done it or wouldn't do it and all that. You're the same. You're not special. You're not better. You're just like every other college football, college basketball, whatever, powerhouse that's trying to win games at all costs. That's all you are.
Hey, and let's go back to the Heisman vote here because that is life-changing. That you are in the commercials, you're in the background of all of the Heisman House things, or potentially you're one of the main parts of it moving forward. This was a vote 2 weeks ago where J.J. McCarthy was minus 150. The next closest was 10-1 with Michael Penix Jr. and Jaden Daniels. That is now no longer the case. It's now J.J. McCarthy plus 240. With Penix Jr. at Washington plus 300, followed by Jaden Daniels at LSU, Jordan Travis, Dylan Gabriel, and Bo Nix, all within 10-1 odds currently. What I think happens with all these QBs, given the whole McCarthy deal and the Michigan sign stealing, there will be those that will hold that against McCarthy where they just leave him off the ballot. And I don't like the way that they add up all these points, first, second, third place points, and how it all comes together. But I do think this opens the door for Marvin Harrison Jr. And it comes down to how the voters view how Ohio State plays against Michigan, because that hurt C.J. Stroud a year ago. It's a great point, David.
Yeah, and you mentioned the millions of dollars. Again,
Drake May really hurt himself with the loss last week.
He did. And we talk about it all the times where things like this happen and people are losing their jobs, and it's just a complete rift as far as the fabric of how college football is supposed to work. And just going back to it, I mean, if you don't have those injuries, there's no telling like where Hendon Hooker gets drafted. He could go to it might not work for him in Detroit. Whereas if he stays healthy, he's able to make a name for himself at another program and has a great career. And again, we've seen players have injuries.
He'd be playing potentially.
Yeah, and they never are able to return to themselves after a big-time knee injury. We don't know, but at the same time, if the catalyst that led to this moment was a team cheating and giving another team that information to get the advantage and make the college football playoff, it's just BS. It's as simple as that.
Chad, Caleb Williams, plus 10,000 right now for the Heisman. What a difference 2 weeks makes.
Crazy. Completely fallen off a cliff. Going back to your Hendon Hooker point, Hendon Hooker is likely starting this weekend for the Titans if he doesn't have the knee injury. I mean, there's a good chance he takes the place of Will Levis in that spot, if not for the rehab and the recovery from the knee injury.
There's a great
I mean, just
of that,
a hypothetical there that Ryan Tannehill goes down and he's getting his opportunity in the state he played his college football in this weekend against the Falcons, and that he may be the pick over Levis if not for the injury.
How do you think it goes for Levis Sunday against the Falcons defense, which is not known for?
In the words of Mr. T in Rocky III, I have one prediction: pain. It's the one word he says about the fight. That's my prediction for Will Levis on Sunday.
The Bills bounce back with a win, another low-scoring game. The under, always great to play. More NFL headlines straight ahead on How Am I with Ed and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
Dabo Swinney ripping his own fans. Dabo Swinney at Clemson is, I don't know, they tell me that he's the guy that doesn't like the transfer portal because he's made some comments that weren't exactly supportive of it. Dabo Swinney has done a job at Clemson that very few thought could be done. Clemson is a town about this big. Well, I better do this, not that, because that's like a white power sign idiots say. But it's about that big. The state is South Carolina. The state is not Clemson. So, but Dabo Swinney put Clemson in rarefied air. If you, a couple years ago, were going to name me the 3 best college football teams before Georgia's run here, you'd say Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson. That's kind of who it always came down to. It felt like. So Dabo Swinney is now the victim of something that is good in one way, but it's bad in another. Incredible expectations of your fan base, meaning 10-2 ain't good enough. It just ain't. You can say whatever you want, but it just ain't. We got to be better. What? We're not in the college football playoff? What? We're not winning a national champion? What? We're 4-2? That's only winning 67% of our games? Here's what Dabo had to say. If you don't go undefeated, people say you're losers, that you're terrible. Let me tell you something. This is why football coaches for years and years and years and years fought the college football playoff. We're at a point in time, and I hate that, where people, if you don't go undefeated, you're losers. You're terrible. It's just a terrible mindset. Honestly, maybe we need to lose a few games and lighten up the bandwagon. Sometimes the bandwagon get a little full. That's the one good thing about going through a little bit of so-called adversity, is that you really find out who's with you and who's not. That's all crap. Let me explain to you Dabo Swinney's day, can I? Dabo Swinney probably wakes up around 5:30. Dabo Swinney smokes shit, shower, shave, shampoo, goes to the office. Probably has a meeting at 7. Dabo Swinney then is probably in different meetings with players or recruits, or maybe the administration, going and maybe watching film, whatever. Then he has practice. Then after practice, he's doing the same thing. Then in the evening, he's making phone calls. Probably goes home around 10. At no point in time in his day, his week, his month, his year, is he finding out who's with us and who's not with us. It's not like there's a list. Now, maybe you find out what media member wants to rip you, but on a daily basis, a monthly basis, you're not finding out any of this crap. It's very simple. Coaches, if you want to know who's with you, understand that when you lose, nobody's really with you. If you want to know who's really with you, win. And then everybody's really with you. It's literally that simple. As my father used to say to me, Dan, we're with you, win or tie, and we ain't so sure about the tie. So shut up with that stuff, win some football games, and don't sweat it. Seriously, do yourself a favor. Work hard, grab yourself a glass of wine, go sit in your chair, and read a book instead of being on social media or worrying about who is with you and who is not with you.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Glad you're with us. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. Rolling on this Friday. Tony in L.A., a longtime season ticket holder of the program for years. Massive Houston Oilers fan. And the Titans have the throwback unis this weekend, which are going to be awesome. The alternative uniforms that you've seen across the league. The Oilers uniforms get it done, Chad. And there was some speculation.
The Love You Blue?
Yeah, there was some speculation that maybe Henry wasn't going to be running the football in that uniform this weekend.
Yeah. Tony, one of the few that he was an Oilers fan turned Titans fan. That's been around for a long time.
He's been in, and this is his weekend to come in, and he's in studio with us here at 6 of Peabody. Great to see him.
Tony's one of those guys that I feel like I've known him since before we did radio. Like he's just you meet him, and I feel like that we've been friends since even before we were on air.
Oh, and a great host for us when we were at the Super Bowl in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
as well.
What was the name of that restaurant we went to, Tony? Out there where we met? Do you remember?
The All American Sports Grill.
Yeah, it was nice.
We barely remember it.
Yeah,
because of the night.
It was fun.
The Bills.
Not our biggest night, the Super Bowl, but it's a big one.
But yeah, well, that's fair. It was a good kickoff for sure.
The big one ended with Matt Leinart and Jamie Foxx. That's all we can say about that night. T.O. also was there.
Yes,
where we were.
Yes, Jimmy Iovine too, apparently. Chad,
terrific story for another day.
The Bills. I've seen a lot of opinion after last night's game that the Bills have found their offensive identity again. I'm still not buying it as we hit the top headlines of the day. There's a lot of moments for Buffalo so far where you're like, okay, is this where they get the offensive identity fixed? Because they don't have it right now. But they have a 24-18 win over Tampa Bay. And even though the final score doesn't really reflect that, you have Ken Dorsey, who called a really good game, and that was against Todd Bowles' defense. And he gave his quarterback the best chance to win based on what they did. I don't know if you buy it or not, but I think Buffalo, if you look back on a run for them, the Bills will look back on this game. They're 4-3 coming into a short week after losing to a bad Patriots team. And turn around and beat Tampa, which Tampa's just – I really don't care who wins the NFC South. It doesn't matter to me because whoever wins is going to the postseason, and they won't last long. But Buffalo is one of those teams that you expect to make a run, at least win a game in the playoffs. And so far this year, they don't look like they have something to lean on. And I thought last night they did. So while the score may not dictate that sentiment, I do think we look back on this game as they get to 5-3 instead of 4-4. And we see a team that kind of takes off instead of continues to slip into the background of the rest of the NFL instead of a team that could be in contention.
Well, we called it a get-right opportunity. I think they capitalized on that opportunity. I know it's a 6-point game in the end, but That was a weird ending to the game. Over a 7-minute drive for Tampa when they needed to be hurrying up.
Yeah.
And they score that touchdown. And then the Hail Mary in the end, I mean, Chris Godwin was there. He just didn't see the football. That was a weird one where no one touched the ball, and he is a yard away from the ball, but looking in the wrong direction when it lands right next to him. So a strange ending to the game. But Dalton Kincaid got going. Looks like he could emerge as a threat in that Buffalo offense. I thought.
And Dorsey leaned into that.
They got into that hot start, where they're up 2 scores most of the game. Final score doesn't look great, but I agree with you, Hutton, that it felt like the possible launching point for what the Bills can be, because it's been a struggle. Josh Allen has admitted that it's been a struggle, said it looked bleak after their latest loss. They started to get things back together in that game.
So Cincinnati is on the road in San Francisco this Sunday. You had Brock Purdy, who practiced yesterday trying to clear concussion protocol. We'll see what happens today when the injury reports get released. But I mention that because Cincinnati comes in needing a win on the road. It's a winnable game for the Bengals, not just because of their roster, but just based on the way the San Francisco defense has been playing. They're allowing offenses to stay on the field and keep the star talent on the opposite sideline. Cincinnati will be hosting Buffalo next Sunday. So I circle that one. And then they will, Buffalo host Denver, host the Jets, and then they visit the Eagles. So 2 out of the 4 games, not a foregone conclusion that they start stacking wins. But they had to get last night. And it was, I think, a more difficult spot than what people realized based on not just the matchup, but just coming off the loss and the way they had played the week prior. Buffalo needs to get right because they're certainly a team that can get hot. I view the playoffs as this for quarterbacks and what tier you're in. Do you trust said quarterback to win 4 games and be able to win in different ways? And if you don't have your best game, you don't lose the game for your team. And Josh Allen, by and large, is capable of losing games for how he turns the football over. They got to rein that in. But when he doesn't turn it over multiple times, the Bills win.
Yeah, I think they're going to be fine. And I think last night was a big step towards getting okay.
Weird spot for the NHL with the gambling policy. They have suspended Shane Pinto 41 games for gambling. The league not releasing details on this, but he did not bet on NHL games. And I also add in this thing, this part of the story. Pinto did not appeal. So what happened here? Because that's a harsh penalty for a player that did not bet on league games. And the statement from the NHL that we'll put back up reads as this: the National Hockey League announced today that it suspended NHL player Shane Pinto for 41 games. Activities relating to sports wagering. The league's investigation found no evidence that Pinto made any wagers on NHL games. The NHL considers this matter closed, absent the emergence of new information, and we have no further comment. You've got to give more detail than that.
So here's my first thought when I saw this. This is not online sports wagering. This is activities relating to sports wagering. So this is probably a next level problem with a bookie where lots and lots of money's being lost.
I'd love to know how they caught him.
Or he's being threatened by something or someone, or financially threatened, and they found out that he owes debtors. There's something going on here financially. I think it's more than just he wagered on UFC matches on FanDuel.
Yes.
Right? I think it goes beyond that. So to me, it's probably something outside the branches of just having an app on your phone and wagering on Major League Baseball games. This is a problem that he's bet a ton of money, and it's probably with some sort of outside agency, person, group that's not related to legal online gambling. That is my guess. Because when I see 41 games, no appeal, no NHL games bet on, I immediately think, okay, this is something that's not just involving an account with an online sports wagering deal.
This is the first suspension of its kind in the league since 1947.
That's crazy.
The final sentence of a statement that's barely 3 paragraphs can't be, and until that we have no further comment. The NFL doesn't give a ton of detail, but what they will tell you is just straightforward. Here are the players who have been suspended for gambling on the NFL. You're getting a year. And here are the players that have been suspended for betting on sports, but doing so while on team property, while on league property, inside a building, using team Wi-Fi, on a flight, landing on a road trip in a state where it's legal to get on an app, and then doing so while you're on the bus going to the hotel, at the hotel. In this case, the NHL's not giving us enough detail, and it allows way too much speculation for what happened here, including the player who's not appealing the suspension, and the matter is closed. Half-season ban.
This is where if
it's so egregious, though, would it be just a half-season ban?
I don't know. That's a lot.
But it's the first time they've done it since 47.
This is where good media picks up the ball and runs with it. In a better sports journalism atmosphere, and maybe we will get this. Okay, here's your lead. This guy's been suspended for 41 games. The NHL's not giving details. Get after it, beat writers. Right? Get after it, NHL reporters. Go find out what he's being suspended for. That would be the next step, but I don't know that we're in a place where that happens as much now, unless someone has handed something, right? So the investigative journalism part of this should now pick it up, and then we find out why he's really being suspended and what happened with these sports wagering activities related to sports wagering, or however it's worded with the NHL. I don't know that we'll get that, though, because I don't know if anyone's going to do the work to find out.
Yeah, and the other part of this, just to add it in, we knew almost immediately what was going on at Iowa State and Iowa, and the games they bet on specifically.
Yeah.
You know, if they were on-campus athletic events, if they were road trips, if the kicker took the under, you know, and the other kicker on the other sideline missed a kick at the very end that would have hit the over, but it hit under. Not the kicker that bet, but the other one who had no idea about it. Again, like it's very peculiar.
Well, and I think part of that is because the Iowa Gaming Commission was involved. So I think whatever info was coming out was from them, maybe not the university. And that may have been the leak in how they've got such specific information. I think this is now on someone who covers the NHL or that team to pick up the ball and figure out what exactly he's being suspended for and report it and write about it. That's the next step in the story.
Well, it can't be, but it's not. See, I think if it's with a bookie or there's something, you know, really bad going on, this is more of a criminal investigation than it is just betting on sports not related to the NHL.
Could be a criminal investigation happening simultaneously.
Well, if it was,
this could be the first step.
But if it was, then the Ottawa Senators wouldn't release a statement saying we will welcome him back to the organization with open arms following the half-season suspension.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, someone who covers the team or the league needs to investigate it and figure it out. Because I don't remember the NFL.
There's definitely a third party better.
Did the NFL list exactly what guys bet on? They just said not the NFL or the NFL, right? It wasn't like, hey, you bet on this UFC match while in the parking lot before a Detroit Lions game or whatever it was. There weren't specific details handed out by the NFL.
But in regards to Calvin Ridley, we knew the parlay within a day or two.
But did the league release that, or did someone do their due diligence and figure it out?
If they didn't release it, they leaked it because it came through one of their partners with the apps. You know, FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, whatever. You know, there's definitely a third party involved in this.
Did a reporter report it, or did the NFL release that in a statement? I think an NFL reporter reported that news. So my point is, my hope is that someone with the NHL would report this. Greg Wyshynski, you know, someone who's their Adam Schefter, right? Someone that's a newsmaker in the NHL will get the information and have specifics on it.
Well, Chad, whenever the NHL finals, whenever the Stanley Cup final was here in Music City, we had on Frank Severalli. And I don't know the outlet he's with now, and I apologize. I think NHL Network or someone. he was doing some special reporting then this was 2017. But he had said there's definitely a third-party vendor or bettor involved here. So while he may not have bet on NHL games, maybe he had information that was out there. Vegas always knows, though. And again, if it's just a cash deal, I don't know how you get caught doing this, because what it is, it's the online apps and the partners, the clients and advertising partners that are trying to also stay on the up and up and reporting in what's going on. Miraculous, though, that in the NFL, while it seemed like a huge flurry in the offseason, I mean, they don't suspend during the season. The Calvin Ridley stuff happened almost, right after the season, I believe when it did, because he was reinstated a year later, which was February.
Well, it's even more miraculous. How many baseball players got suspended?
Yeah, apparently they don't even. No one uses an app in
You find out what you want to find out. Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, because Major League
they don't want to know. I don't think Major League Baseball is in any hurry
and I've said
to find out what's going on.
They don't want to know because they will have to act in a way that they've treated Pete Rose. And if you don't suspend a guy or ban him for life, well, then Pete Rose is reinstated. It's one or the other. So that's why you don't want to know. And in the case of the NFL, I mean, apparently star quarterbacks don't use online apps either, Chad.
No.
Based on their policy.
Right tackles, they do it, but not quarterbacks.
That's right.
Big gamblers, those right tackles.
Dumpster fire
like
of the week. There's one big one and some others next.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump now at least have to see senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy or are you a DeSantis guy or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Hell yeah, baby! I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well. Yeah. And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Coming up, Tyrod Taylor is going to start. Daniel Jones with the neck injury. Plus, what about Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold? Many believe, Chad, not only will San Francisco be fine if they have to go with Darnold, they could be better. Do we believe that? We'll get into that straight ahead. Chad is a champion today.
Yes.
Along with the Red Sox.
Little Red Sox, 16-0.
Yep.
Got a photo. One of the parents, clever. They were working the scoreboard. We won the game 11-4, but they put 16-0 on the scoreboard for a photo op, so we could go and take our photo underneath the scoreboard that had our record on it. I had people responding when I posted saying, "Yeah, what about the score though? 16-0. That's not a close championship game. Like that's our record." Was 16-0. We just put that on the scoreboard after the game. It was fun. Fun times. Congrats to the Red Sox.
Not fun times in Ann Arbor. That's where we will start for our dumpster fire of the week. And we have other examples. But, guys, we must start with the Wolverines football program.
Must.
How do we've gone over all these details. What's the one piece of this story that you believe they're most worried about?
It's a good question.
I think it's Harbaugh's initial statement that was released.
That he doesn't know?
That he doesn't know. How could you not know? If every coach is calling TCU, I say every, many coaches are calling TCU about it, and they've been using it, and they have the most elaborate sign-stealing system in the world. And Jim Harbaugh doesn't know about it. I think they're most worried about, can they connect it to him? Can they connect it to Harbaugh?
I think their biggest fear is we may be forced to let go some really good coaches. Just we're rolling right now. We want to keep these coaches in place. They're winning. But our hand may be forced if it turns out they were sending this information to other teams to affect the college football playoff race, right? That, to me, is the next level of this. It's one thing just to cheat for your own advantage. It's another thing to cheat for other programs, to beat other programs to help your case, if that can be proven.
And this is not probable, but as far as what they could be worried about from a potential punishment standpoint is just the fact that they would not be able to play this year in the Big Ten Championship. I don't see it getting to that level.
I don't think it can just based on the timetable. But even if the NCAA wanted to come through and levy a penalty, it
would have to be the Big Ten.
But and here's the only reasoning behind that is because the Big Ten tried to change the rules in 2020 to get Ohio State to be automatically qualifiable for the Big Ten Championship during the COVID year. So you can't say they've not tried something like this in the past. So they could, but again, what sucks for them.
But they did that because they wanted to get in the playoff.
Yes.
And would the Big Ten do that with Michigan because they're on a path to get to the playoff?
If they could have another team that could take that place, again, they're getting rid of it after this year, but the fact that the Big Ten West can still somehow make the Big Ten Championship.
But by the time they can make that decision, they could, you're right, but they could, in a tiebreaker scenario, the tiebreaker could be an afterthought if they beat Penn State.
Yeah, not likely, but I would say outside of that, they're most worried. It's not even this part of it, but I think the Matt Weiss, there's something connecting the two of these together, and there's probably something we don't even know about that the administration's worried will eventually get out, and that's ultimately what's going to be the deciding factor to where heads will roll.
Well, the FBI has been investigating this for months, and there's just been a notice of investigation. Here's us alerting you that we're starting this. They've had that from the NCAA several times. You're right. I think the Big Ten would be the judge, jury, and executioner if they're going to do it. I just don't. I mean, there's no incentive based on just the dollars and cents to do it if you're putting Michigan in. And last year they're potentially scouting opponents that could be ahead of them if they were trying to make their case to be the second team in from the conference, unlike Ohio State, right? That's who they were also scouting ahead for. It's not the opponent, it was just the resume factor.
Yeah, the biggest concern is that it derails a great ride for Michigan football. That's it. Simplest as you can say it. Something's going to happen that's going to stop them from.
Yeah. And it's happened right before the nation's about to pay attention to them.
They know this is the end of the road for Harbaugh. This is his last season. And so the fact that, like you mentioned, they've got it rolling, things are looking like this could be a dynasty, that's going to end after this year.
By the way, the coach that I played last night just was watching and says a 16-0 loss in the championship would have stung pretty bad last night. So the coach that was the runner-up, who, by the way, did a great job with his team also. Lost a lot of close games the regular season and got hot in the playoffs.
I can't confirm.
To
Chad
get to the
spoke
championship.
highly of you.
Yes. Yeah. No,
behind the scenes.
Did a good job with that team.
My dumpster fire of the week is USC, Trojan football. Beyond just the painted fingernails and the arrogant Heisman winner from last year trying to run it back, responding to the Notre Dame fan, how about them nails now, bro? Let me see them nails now, bro. You followed up with a loss, and then players are not made available to the media, whatever. Lincoln Riley, not on his coach's show, sent home on doctor's orders, thought to be pneumonia, back at practice, 2 losses in a row. They're on the road against Cal this week, but then they face a gauntlet coming up. This could be not just at the cliff, but headed straight down in the ravine quickly. And how quickly we have forgotten about Williams and the quest for 2. In fact, even the headlines are about how Williams isn't going to just give up on the season. I mean, I think we're just scratching the surface on some drama with the Trojan football program. And the dumpster fire, while it may not be totally evident, what they're writing and saying in Los Angeles for a media market that is used to giving a ton of attention to USC, they're not really welcome to do that with Lincoln Riley's program. That's frowned upon, media access. What they're writing is it's not just one defensive coordinator that's going to solve all the issues. And if that's true, this is not the Lincoln Riley program that everyone thought coming into the season as far as building up a monster going to the Big Ten.
Yeah, and adding to that, Hutton, Lincoln Riley was asked a question about their lack of in-state California recruiting in this class. And he gave a very long answer that kind of took a shot at California high school players, which I don't think many people appreciate. He said, man, I understand what he's saying. He's like, if we go too national with our recruiting and we lose, everyone's going to come back and say it's because you didn't go with the local kids. And if I get all local kids and we're losing, it's not going to matter, was his point. You're not going to say, well, at least he's doing it with the local kids, so we're okay with it. So he basically said, when I took this job, there were a number of California kids that didn't need to be here, that were on this roster because they were local, and we didn't want to just go after local kids. So that was his decision to go more national with what he was trying to accomplish. So it made sense to me, but it also, in the long, winding answer, I don't think came across that well to high school football coaches. in the area, and it just sort of added a little bit more problem to USC football.
Chad, your dumpster fire of the week, a possible future Forensic Files episode.
Yes, dumpster fire is in the Bowman household. I'll read the first line from the report and the story. A Minnesota doctor who has worked as a poison specialist is accused of killing his estranged wife by poisoning her, police said. The poison expert killed his wife by poisoning. And not only that, he was an expert in something, but still felt the need to Google the poison that he was working with, the Mayo Clinic, and that's how they have him. He searched about the symptoms of it. He searched about how long it would take to kill someone with it. He Google searched how to buy this stuff. And then his wife went to the Mayo Clinic reporting dehydration, stomach issues, and within 4 days, she died. This is all an elaborate scheme, apparently, to get out of debt. It's an insurance scheme that Connor Bowman found himself in a lot of debt. Tragic story, obviously, for his wife in this, but qualifies for dumpster fire when your scheme to get out of debt as a poison expert is to kill your wife by poisoning. It's a pretty, I'm not Columbo, but I think I could crack that case pretty easily. Most everyone says it's the husband or the boyfriend, right? Every time when a woman dies, it's usually the case. I could pretty easily go ahead and point my finger at the husband right there and say, I'm going to say the guy who's the poison expert at the Mayo Clinic may have killed the wife who died by poison. I'm going to go ahead and say that may have been the case here. That's my dumpster fire of the week.
I know this through Forensic Files. There are some poisons that are not detectable.
That terrifies me.
The expert would have known that. So
this stuff is detectable. It's colchicine is what he
luckily
gave her.
For him, he is the Connor Stallions of trying to murder your wife here. The path to do so was so evident. It's quite the paper trail there, Chad.
What are the odds you guys think you could get away with murder?
0.
I wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay.
Davey's going to try it.
No, I'm not going to try it, but you guys know before I came over here, I was also
I ended up confessing
doing true
like
crime,
Kenny Powers.
documentaries.
I've killed
Davey
people.
will volunteer his tribute.
It's no, I by no means have any inklings to cause harm to anybody.
When Hutton says untraceable or undetectable poison, that's one of the scariest things I've ever heard. But that's my fear. Like watching Breaking Bad when they went to the whole ricin episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, that is terrifying to me that someone could sprinkle something in something you ingest and kill you, and it's undetectable.
Wish I had the bell right now, just a ding, 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 ding. Yeah, it's a tough one, but yeah, I mean, I don't know why.
Davey, get us out of this, please.
I will, but I want to end with, listen, if you got your phone on you, they can track that from cell phone towers. The signal is going to ping back. They also have access to anything you have searched. So I'm just giving you a heads up. They're going to catch you if you're stupid enough to do that. But mine actually gets us back to the world of sports. My dumpster fire for the week is James Harden. You look at Harden, and he's not been with the team. And the big story that happened recently, now might have been last night or the night before, I can't remember, but when the Bucks played the 76ers, the 76ers looked pretty good without him. They ended up losing that game 118-117. And, you know, the Bucks, they're one of the top 2 teams in the league as far as favorites to win the NBA Finals. 76ers held their own. They still have a lot of good pieces on that team, and they can just wait until they find the right package to trade Harden. The big story here, though, was the fact that Harden had a 10-day excused absence. He then shows up to go on the road trip. They had 2 or 3 games. It was going to be about 9 days. Security came up to him and said, hey, it's better off if you don't actually get on the plane. We've got to, and then put him in touch with some other people. They're like, hey, as you get acclimated and back up to speed, we're going to work on this program here at the practice facility. So they just didn't want him to be with the team, pretty much viewing him as a cancer. So to his credit, he left without an altercation or getting too upset, at least according to reports. So it's one of those things to where this guy, he's got all the talent, but whenever it comes to working on his craft, he just doesn't seem to be right. And right now, I don't anticipate him to play for the 76ers ever again. He's got beef with Daryl Morey, who Morey, if you remember, was the general manager that ultimately lost his job after coming out in support of Hong Kong when China was taking him over. And yet him and Harden managed that relationship. And he left from Houston, went to Philadelphia, and that's how Harden ultimately got with the 76ers. But it's just been a dumpster fire. And James Harden, it's one of those guys that constantly keeps moving around, but there's always drama no matter where he goes.
Yeah, and he was it was his agent maybe that was saying that he had been tending to his sick mother as to why he had asked for time away from the Sixers.
They didn't say, the team hasn't said why he was away. They said they excused the absence, but either way, not a good look for James.
No.
It reeks of Steve McNair at the end with the Titans getting locked out of the weight room or the facility, remember?
He wanted to be with his assistant coach. It's like, no, you can't.
Trying to get on the plane. Hey, I think we got a car for you, James. It's over here. It's going to take you back to your home. You're not traveling
waved as the plane took off.
And Morey's liking tweets saying they're better without Harden.
The very latest across the NFL. Who's playing? Who's out next?
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I made the call to end the Me Too movement. And today I'm going to continue making that case. And that's just a way to further taunt these women, to make them feel less than, to make them realize that this has just become a big joke. Deion Sanders is the Donald Trump of football.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Just like that, the final hour is here. Hot Mic with Hutton Withrow across the OutKick network. Chad, how would you describe today's show so far?
Vibrant.
Really?
Yeah.
Vibrant.
Yeah, colorful. I don't know. Maybe it's just my shirt.
Your
That's
shirt's
making
great.
me think that.
It's a good Easter shirt.
I'm like Anchorman when I'm just saying things in the room now. Lamp.
I love lamp.
Camera. Light.
How
That's
about
all I know.
Points bet. If you haven't taken your shot with points bet.
Second chance.
Second chance is great too.
Yeah.
Perfect moment to take advantage. Exclusive for first-time PointsBet users. Grab this unique offer. Right now, new PointsBet users can get up to $1,000 in second chance bets. If your first bet doesn't go as planned, PointsBet, they've got your back. Second chance. Get this offer by visiting outkick.com/bet. You complete the registration process with PointsBet, and you make your first bet. If your first bet happens to lose, that's when the second chance bets come into play. Remember, terms and conditions apply. You got to be 21 or older in legal gambling states. Gambling problem? 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-GAMBLER. Head over to outkick.com/bet right now to snag this offer. Tyrod Taylor set to start for the New York Giants. Daniel Jones, and he's got the neck injury. Brian Daboll will not say if Jones's season is over, if he's headed to injury reserve and he's done. But the neck injury has kept him out the last 3 weeks, and he was asked again about it, and just Daboll refuses to be definitive. Even if Daniel Jones were able to come back, there are several around the organization that cover and are well connected that say there could be a quarterback controversy. Tyrod Taylor played well last week, and you have a group that's trying to at least keep the pressure off as much as possible moving into next season on an organization that played very well a year ago, franchise tagged, and then gave more money, albeit not much, but more money to Saquon Barkley. He's been hurt some. And then now your quarterback who you bought into, who played well a year ago, has not been available for you this year.
What are the you're much better with contracts than I, Hutton. What are the financials with Daniel Jones? I remember it being a bump in pay and good security for him, but I don't feel like it's a total albatross for the organization.
Well,
if they were to get out of it,
$82 million is fully guaranteed to him.
Okay, that's more than I thought.
It was 4 years, $160, which put him ahead. No, it put him just behind Dak Prescott, I believe, on his deal. Or Prescott may have been $150. It's right around the same. He's a top 10 paid quarterback.
It's going to be tough to dump out of that.
He's a top 10 paid quarterback.
Tough to dump out of that.
Yeah,
if they go with Tyrod Taylor.
Yes. And, I mean, you've got let me look at Spotrac real quick. Their out is after 2025. It's not anywhere close to that. But they've got, a base salary this year of $35.5 million. That's next year for Daniel Jones. $35.5 million and a cap hit of 47 next season.
First thing I thought of with this neck issue was, what is it with David Cutcliffe proteges and neck problems? Because my mind immediately went to Peyton Manning and the neck issue. Another David Cutcliffe protege. Another's connection. It's bad luck. And Peyton's was more of a degenerative, debilitating thing that was never going to get better over time. And he had the big corrective surgery for it, the fusion, I think it was.
Yes.
In his spine. And that's why he was able to come back, not with the same arm strength ever, but still set records, broke records as Denver Broncos quarterback when he came back. Hoping for a speedy recovery for Daniel Jones. But if there's truly a quarterback debate here, or race, that's not good news for the Giants.
No. And it's just if you continue to win with what Tyrod Taylor's doing, which is a good backup option for a team in the league, no matter where he's been. He's a journeyman. That's not a bad thing. And he's certainly won some games coming off the bench in the past. But the neck injury happened in Week 5. We haven't seen him since, and his status is in doubt even for next week. So all Daboll will say is he doesn't have the crystal ball with that. It was Cowherd, I think, that said that Brian Daboll should try to facilitate a trade for himself and get out and go somewhere else rather than be in New York, based on the way that things are trending. This is weeks ago. With Jones being out, Saquon's not going to be back, you wouldn't think. And, yeah, it's not a good spot. Not a good spot.
But we wouldn't have said that after last year.
No, but hey, I thought they made the right call, by the way.
Well, yeah, they were
Signing
huge
the quarterback,
surprise a year ago.
Tagging the running back. That was the way to do it. And those two, the way Saquon was playing, Jones played off of that with the play action. He's known for turning the football over. He didn't do it nearly to the amount last year, and he stayed healthy. Both guys stayed healthy. Jones has been known for having hamstring issues and other things. Now he's got the neck issue. Yeah, not great.
No one would have said this, though, after what they pulled off last year. And the great coaching job Brian Daboll did, the resurrection of the career for Daniel Jones. Saquon Barkley continued to be a weapon. Then Saquon Barkley's discontent in the offseason. Daniel Jones isn't playing well. Giants are bad. And now suddenly there's quarterback controversy. Colin Cowherd's right. It's bad right now. But I think in hindsight, you would look back and say, no one saw this level of downturn for the Giants.
Yeah, I agree. Well, 2 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions when he has played this year, completing less than 65% of his passes, and he's also taking a beating. He's been sacked on 15.6% of his dropbacks.
Gosh.
Not great for your franchise QB. Dalvin Cook wants out of New York. He's frustrated. For a guy who took his visit to the facility while in Hard Knocks with the Jets, for Dalvin Cook, who barely had interest from across the league, do they find a trade partner by next Tuesday? Maybe. But is it like a conditional 7th round? Is it like, hey, we're going to give you you give us a 7th, we're going to give you Dalvin Cook and a 6th? You have to give him away at this point, based on the interest that we saw on the market whenever he was actually available, because the Vikings booted him.
And what's the competing market with him and Derrick Henry? Is a question that immediately popped up. They're different players, clearly.
Yeah, well, Henry's contract is an issue.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem if whoever takes it on. But, I mean, Dalvin Cook, for that reason, Dalvin Cook is much more attractive to a running back needy team.
He's also
that's in the playoff hunt.
He's also scheduled to make like $3 million between now and the end of the year.
Well, you know who else is very much in the playoff hunt right now? The team he's currently on.
Yeah.
The New York Jets. I mean, this kind of sucks for the Jets because after everything was awful early on with Aaron Rodgers' injury and then Zach Wilson not looking good, it started to come together a little bit for that team. Zach Wilson inching a little bit more respect as he moves forward with his teammates. I mean, they're not terrible. And now Dalvin Cook wants out. I'm trying to think of the right. It's hard with these running backs, Hutton, to project the perfect spot for them with a Super Bowl contender. Because my mind immediately goes to a buyer is going to be someone who feels like, especially at running back, that feels like they got a chance at the Super Bowl this year. And they are a Dalvin Cook or a Derrick Henry away from making a run at the Super Bowl.
Well, there are
Who
two,
is that team?
There are two that could use the help. I don't know if they have the space to do it. Number 1 is Baltimore. Number 2 is Buffalo. And
what about Detroit?
Detroit, yes, but it's based on when do they feel like they'll be healthy there?
Yeah.
And Jahmyr Gibbs, how do you want to use him and implement him off of what you're doing? Let me also throw this out. Minnesota, who booted Dalvin Cook because he was scheduled to make $11 million and he was going to count 14 against the cap. Alex Madison's not the bell cow guy. They're paying him, $6 million, I think, this year. Maybe less than that. Maybe it's a $6 million contract over 2 years or something, or $4 million of it this year. It's not top money. Let's just put it that way. Chad, do you consider going back down that path if you're Minnesota?
No.
You bring him back?
I don't think Minnesota is going to be an option. Would you consider, if Buffalo's the best offer, do you trade within your division? If you're the Jets, I'm a firm believer that
he's averaging 2.8 yards per carry.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you're getting a good offer, right, the line of thinking is don't trade within your division. I believe if it's the best offer, take it.
Sure. And
don't worry about it. And like you said, 2.8 yards per carry. He's not doing much.
He's
for the
not
Jets.
the starter for the Jets.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for them, if they're wanting to move. By the way, his name's been in the trade discussion before he was asked about this. He's like, yeah, it sucks hearing my name out there. It could be good, it could be bad. Meaning, hey, I'm open to it. And he said, yeah, I'm frustrated. Frustrated by his play and his use. But he's used to having his name out there, and he's used to being the top guy. And let me also mention this. Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers wants you there, you'll be there. He doesn't, he won't speak up on it.
Well, if Aaron Rodgers is playing, he would have the say on this.
He has a lot of say with guys who are while he's not playing.
I don't know if he has say with Dalvin Cook while he's not playing this year, unless Dalvin Cook is there long term.
I think if Aaron Rodgers wanted him on the roster when he returns, Dalvin Cook's staying, and Dalvin Cook would know it.
I think if Aaron Rodgers could tell him I'm going to be back in 5 weeks.
He's telling everyone that
for sure, and I want you around. Then yeah, he'll probably stay.
I think I've never seen a player have so much impact on a team who's not playing, and if he's there or not there. I mean, he is the glue and he's the force behind what the Jets are doing right now, even as like a rehab guy with the Achilles. If he's there and he's like the figurehead and he's still out front and talking every week. He's the guy that came to the defense of Zach Wilson immediately with Joe Namath. I mean, if he's out, and Sauce Gardner and everyone responds to what he says. So they need him. He's been the motivating factor because in the back of their mind, Chad, they know Rodgers is coming back.
Davey with a good point. Dalvin Cook would reunite with his brother, James, in Buffalo. If that move happened. The Rodgers thing is interesting with the Jets. I think that's just simply a byproduct of a team that has no clue how to win because they haven't done it in the NFL, and they're latching themselves to someone who has won and that has been around the league in a lot of different situations. So they're looking to him for guidance, and Aaron Rodgers is happy to give it. He was throughout training camp. If you watched Hard Knocks, he has been throughout the early part of the season, even when he's sidelined with the injury. So not a dumb thing for the Jets to do. They should probably listen to Aaron Rodgers. Will Dalvin Cook listen to Aaron Rodgers? Does Aaron Rodgers want him? Don't know.
What's Dallas going to end up doing? Jerry Jones said about the possible trade talks with the Cowboys, quote, I don't think there's anything at a level I would expect to do anything. I don't see anything heated up to a level that would cause something to happen. And then it was earlier in the week where he said that, hey, if you want to make a deal, you got to call us because we're not calling around trying to make one. I don't think they do it. Right now, I believe Dallas only has 4 draft picks in this upcoming draft. So I think Henry makes a lot of sense in that backfield. Takes a lot of pressure off of Dak Prescott, eight men boxes, 8-man fronts for the defenses they would be facing. And I think it fits that style of offense with McCarthy. I just don't, so if the Titans are going to trade Derrick Henry, more or less, they're going to buy a better pick. They would pick up part of the contract that's remaining, which is a little over $6 million, including likely to be earned money. And even if it's a bonus, if it's likely to be earned, the team has to count that against the cap, even if you don't end up paying out that bonus. I think the Titans would almost have to pick up part of that salary, Chad, and in exchange, you're trading away a better pick because you're acquiring Henry at a lower rate, and the Titans have just bought a draft pick. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Look, at some point, the Titans in this whole seller thing, they're going to have to get more in return for something.
Yeah, I think they're trying. I just don't know if the offer's there that's right.
And 5th and 6th round pick, great. Gives you a couple picks back. If Kevin Byard wasn't in your plans before, okay. It's tough.
What's
it's tough.
interesting
now, it's
about
great,
that
it's
trade?
great for Dallas if they can make it work. And you talked about the contract they'd be inheriting with Derrick Henry, and I'm with you. I think that makes a lot of sense for the Cowboys. What makes sense for the Titans right now in terms of this fire sale that may or may not be taking place?
It's got to be a great offer or, a better one than what they've received, because I don't know if a lot of teams can't absorb the money, and they know Henry's a free agent after this year. And a lot of teams don't value running back all that much. You've either got your guy if you do, or your backups being decent while you wait on your guy to come back, like Deontay Foreman's scoring multiple touchdowns in Chicago. Chad, looking at some of the headlines out there, Tyson Bagent will start again for Chicago. It's official that Justin Fields is not going to play. And Will Levis makes his NFL debut, rookie quarterback for the Titans, starting for Tennessee as they take on Atlanta. Malik Willis could play, but I think it's more about if Levis comes in with a hot hand, I think it's just a package or a specific play situation that they've got for Willis. Here's why it was obvious that Levis was going to be the starter, because the backup was Malik Willis, and Vrabel said earlier this week they're going to play both guys. So if that's true, the backup would have been the obvious starter, and he didn't say that. It's Will Levis time, while Tannehill is out with the ankle injury.
Well, Mike Vrabel's upset that there's a leak in his organization, and then it got reported that Will Levis was going to start, because at one point in that press conference he said, we may play all three guys. Yeah. This is when Ryan Tannehill, I mean, we'll see what Ryan's doing. You know, he's kind of out there trying to give it a go. Maybe we'll rotate all three, and I'm thinking that's not going to be the plan.
Yeah, if it doesn't come from Diana Rossini, he's upset.
Yeah.
Because that's direct information from Rossini where it's pretty obvious that Vrabel's the source there.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in local media is talking about that. Chad, when we come back, one big thing on every NFL game. Looking forward to it. Plus, Morgan Freeman has chimed in on Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
Finally. I've been waiting forever.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, like who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay. Why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Hell yeah, baby! I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well. Yeah. And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Chad, apparently, as we're going to break, I didn't even pick up on this. I said one big thing on every NFL game, which was yesterday. You have your top 10 games coming
Hutton,
up.
before we get to that, I need to double check to see if this quote that's out there is real or not.
Okay.
Because someone just sent me something that's one of the more amazing quotes I've ever seen come out of the NFL in recent history. But I don't know if it's a joke account or not, like spinning it as real news.
I see. So you're looking that up.
The first thing I saw was a recent viral rumor claimed. So, yeah, not real. Just wanted to make sure.
It's not the quote from Morgan Freeman, is it?
No, it's not.
Morgan Freeman.
Again, this is why you double check things that you see online to make sure it's real before you go on air and say it. I'll read you the quote during the break.
Okay.
Because it's one of those that it's from not an overly famous player, and it's said in a way that's totally believable yet also incredible. So it's very believable, but I don't think it's real.
Okay. Well, here's the. You ready for the Morgan Freeman update, or you want to wait?
I'm ready for the Morgan Freeman.
So he went on Thursday. He went on yesterday with CBS Mornings. And because he's promoting a Netflix documentary he's a part of, Life on Our Planet. And then Gayle King asks him, hey, I've heard from reliable sources, our producer, that you're a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. Is that true? And Freeman said yes. And then immediately he was asked about the romance between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. And then King went in to say, so how are you feeling about Taylor and Travis? Is it keeping you up at night? Are you in favor? What do you think? Are you in favor? Are you in favor? What are you thinking, Morgan Freeman, about this? Quote, I don't think about them at all. From Morgan Freeman. Well done, sir.
Yeah, that's great.
86-year-old Morgan Freeman.
He is 86?
He is 86.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, what does an 86-year-old man spend his days thinking about? It's certainly not Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
He's thinking about Patrick Mahomes. Quote, it's great to watch Pat run, escape. He's got a rifle for an arm. That's all good. That's what I'm interested in.
Morgan Freeman, man, God bless him, still out there working. He was in Special Ops Lioness. I watched from Taylor Sheridan on Paramount Plus. Had a couple episodes in that series recently. And the guy's out there still grinding, doing this documentary with Netflix. God bless him. Love that guy.
Chad Withrow has been grinding. Here are his top 10 games for the college football weekend.
Need more reasons to watch college football? It's time to bang some hats. Here's Chad Withrow's must-see games this weekend.
I've been grinding, just coming out of the coal mines right now. Speaking of coal mines, it's time to go to the MAC, baby.
Yeah.
First time
the
all
Canary.
year. We're headed to the MAC. Game number 10 of the weekend, Hutton. Miami of Ohio, the Redhawks, traveling to Athens, not Georgia. Athens, Ohio, great party town. Big Halloween party coming up.
Yeah.
Biggest Halloween party on any college campus in America takes place at Ohio University. The Bobcats of Ohio, a 7.5-point favorite in this game. You can find this game on CBS Sports Network at 2:30. Many will circle the 2:30 CBS game as the highlighted game of the week. You need to pay attention to 2:30 on CBS Sports Network. Hutton, we had our preseason MAC picks, as you know, every year.
Yes.
We really just toil over these picks and try to decide what's going on. Miami of Ohio and Ohio tied atop the MAC East Division at 3-1 coming into this game. Curtis Rourke completes 62% of his passes for Miami of Ohio, for Ohio. Miami of Ohio, Hutton, quarterback Brett Gabbert.
Oh.
Brother of
Blaine
Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert's little brother is a starting
big
quarterback
separation
for
between
Brett
ages
Gabbert.
there.
Yeah, big separation.
Very interesting. I've seen Ohio play once. It was when I put my money where my mouth was on San Diego State earlier this year.
That's right. And won that, I believe, correct?
Yeah. Barely.
So big game in the MAC. Let's go from the MAC to the Mountain West. Game number 9, Wyoming at Boise State. The Broncos of Boise State a 5-point favorite. This game at 4:30 Central Time on FS2. Not FS1, FS2 this game. Andrew Presley for Wyoming. True dual threat. Leads the Cowboys in both rushing and passing. This a game in the MAC that if you look at the standings right now, both teams trying to stay one game back from Air Force, who's 4-0, and UNLV at 3-0 right now in the Mountain West. Both these teams with one loss coming into it. Win, and they stay alive in the Mountain West standings.
Wyoming won outright at home against Fresno State. They lost but covered against Air Force on the road. And Boise is 1-2 in their last 3 games. And they've allowed at least 27 points in each of those games. I nearly took this in wrong team favored. Contemplated it, didn't go with it. I like Wyoming, though.
Hutton, that was fun. Going to the MAC, going to the Mountain West the way we did. But let's shift gears a little bit. Let's go to a little something we know about, the Southeastern Conference for game number 8. The Tennessee Vols headed to Lexington to take on Kentucky. Vols ranked 21st nationally, a 3.5-point road favorite. This game, 6 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. For Kentucky, they feel kind of like Tennessee does about Florida. They've had plenty of chances in this series. They feel like they have the better team, and they find ways to lose to Tennessee. Tennessee has their number. Liam Cohen, offensive coordinator, even making comments this week saying, we got to get the Vols and that orange and white color scheme out of our own heads and play our game because Tennessee is in their head. He admitted this week. Big opportunity for both teams. Coming in this game 5-2, good record on the season. Both win for either one of these teams, it's big. Devin Leary's been a big disappointment.
Yes.
He's completing 53% of his passes. Ray Davis has not. The Vandy transfer paces Kentucky's offense. Kentucky will sell out to stop the run in this game. Once again, it becomes a question, can Joe Milton and this receiving core continue to develop and hit some big plays in this game? Tennessee won 44-6 last year in Knoxville. How? I think the third play of the game, they hit Jalen Hyatt for a 60-yard touchdown, and that was more of what's to come. They hit them for big play after big play because Kentucky will play man-to-man on the outside and sell out to stop that run. Can Joe Milton hit the big play? I think Tennessee's better almost across the board in this game. Can they go on the road and get a big win, though?
Devin Leary threw 37 touchdown passes in 2021. Did not live up to the hype with NC State last year. And now he's missing wide open receivers against Georgia. I don't know why this is such a big upset pick for some across college football as they make their betting picks. I mean, this should be Tennessee on the road with a big win.
Tennessee getting the news this week. Kamal Hadden, starting cornerback, out for the season with surgery. He had come along, 3 interceptions, only completing 32% of the passes against him on passes he was defending, the side he was defending. So Tennessee's got to replace him, but this is the right passing offense for Tennessee to go against in finding a replacement for Kamal Hadden, that's for sure. Game number 7, Hutton, one that you love, you're going to talk more about later, I believe. Oregon State, 11th in the country, a 3-point favorite. The Beavers going on the road to take on the Wildcats of Arizona. This game, 9:30 Central Time, a Jonathan Hutton special. Late night, Pac-12 after dark on ESPN. Oregon State has one of the best rushing attacks in America. DJ Uiagalelei has been terrific running and throwing. Sometimes the stats don't really back it up with him, but he's been exactly what Oregon State needs. Couldn't say that about his time at Clemson. He's really transformed his career in Corvallis. For Arizona, their freshman quarterback, Noah Fafita, 34 for 43 for 342 yards as they pushed Washington to the brink. Should have beaten USC. This Arizona team is one to watch, getting a lot better.
A win over Arizona gives Oregon State their best start since 2012. Been a while. And for whatever reason, people think this is a tough test. So does Vegas. More thoughts on that coming up.
Hutton's got deep thoughts with Jack Handy or Jonathan Hutton coming up a little bit later. Game number 6. Let's go to the Big Ten, shall we? It was a great segment on SNL back in the day. Jack Handy. Game number 6.
Maybe Bargatze brings that back.
Buckeyes of Ohio State. Tyler Castles fired up for this one. OutKick's Dave Hookstead fired up about that 14.5 point spread.
Disrespected.
For Wisconsin. Disrespectful at Madison, Wisconsin. Here's what's disrespectful. Wisconsin's offense. For anyone that's watched it, that's disrespectful to the eyeballs to watch it. Luke Fickell, he does not have it going offensively. This is a program that is based on hardcore, smash mouth, run the football, great offensive line play, getting a push, and a great running back. Luke Fickell is going to figure it out at Wisconsin. They don't have an offensive identity right now. A lot of talk about Penn State's failures on offense a week ago. Credit Ohio State's defense for a lot of that. 5th nationally in total defense. The Big Ten West still very much on the line for Wisconsin. They still have a good shot at it, honestly, even if they lose this game. Ohio State, though, Hutton, more than a 2-touchdown favorite in Madison.
Yeah, I mean, I just think even if Ohio State sleepwalks, Wisconsin would have a chance. I think they could win this game scoring 24 points. And I mean, it doesn't have to be a boat race for the Buckeyes to win.
I think this game, Wisconsin's defense is not as good as it's been in the past, but this game has like 24-13 written all over it. Yeah. I don't think it's a high-scoring affair on this one. Yeah, but Ohio State, definitely the better team.
No team to look ahead for with Ohio State now. They've got Rutgers and Michigan State after this. So
could be 24-3 also, given Wisconsin's offense. Game number 5. Coach Prime is back. He had a bye week. He had 2 weeks to stew over blowing that 29-0 halftime lead against Stanford. Stanford believes after erasing 29 points in the second half. Does Colorado still believe? They travel to Pasadena to take on Chip Kelly's UCLA Bruins. UCLA a 15-point favorite.
And it's dropped.
6:30 Central Time on ABC. Again, Colorado, 2 weeks off, a week to prepare, extra week for UCLA. UCLA is number 1 in the nation against the run, and they have one of the nation's best pass rushes. Now, the run game stopping doesn't make much of a difference against Colorado. But Colorado's speed on the outside and Shedeur Sanders' ability, Hutton, that's not something UCLA has seen yet. I think Colorado scores some points.
I do too.
In this game on this UCLA defense. UCLA, the better team. I think this is way closer than that 16.5-point spread.
I agree. I just didn't have faith that they were going to win outright for wrong team favorite, which is coming
points.
Up. It was 19.5, though, earlier this week.
It's down to 15 now.
Yeah, I know. There's something up there, and I agree. I think it's a high-scoring game that ultimately UCLA is going to win in the 4th.
Game number 4. If we don't get to all these, by the way, we'll get to a couple in the next segment as well. Game number 4. The number 1 ranked Georgia by God Bulldogs. Going into Jacksonville, it's going to be split 50-50, orange and blue, black and red on each side. Georgia versus the Florida Gators. This is 2:30 Central Time on CBS, not CBS Sports Network, for those that want to watch that Miami of Ohio game that I highlighted earlier. You get Georgia, Florida on the big network in this one. Graham Mertz, I had to do a double take when I was looking statistically at this game. He's completing 76% of his passes this season. 76%.
Consistent.
They are killing people. Short, intermediate game, quick passing game. Graham Mertz has been much better for Florida than he ever was at Wisconsin. Maybe Billy Napier's biggest win as coach so far is the transformation of Graham Mertz and what he's done with him. 423 yards, 3 touchdowns, and his best performance yet in that come-from-behind win in Columbia, South Carolina. Georgia's defense, though, great again. Number 1 in the nation on third down. Third down's going to be huge in this game. Can Florida get into third and manageable and then beat them with the quick passing game? That's going to be a big marker in this one. Florida's defense has been uneven this season. It feels like one game they can stop the run, but they get lit up in the pass. Next game, they're great against the pass. But a team like Kentucky runs all over them in a loss. But here's Florida, 5-2 on the season. Billy Napier not doing a bad job at all. Huge opportunity, Hutton, to put a scare into the Georgia Bulldogs in this game.
So let's dive a little bit into this and then get to your top three coming up, Chad.
Okay.
So their upcoming schedule for Florida, they're clearly making progress, all right?
Yep.
So Georgia Saturday, home game against Arkansas, and then they finish the year LSU, at Missouri, and then Florida State. I think we will look on the record and we won't really give them the credit based on how they've competed, because Georgia to me is not Bama. Bama will make the mental error. They'll have the organizational problems where it's 12 men on the field, or they'll have a legal lineman downfield, whatever. I don't see that with the Bulldogs. And because of that, I don't think Florida can pull the upset. They can keep this close, but my upset meter is like at a 5 out of a 10, not like at a 7.5 like I think many people are looking at, because it's 14.5.
Well, when Florida went to Kentucky and got beaten easily by the Wildcats, I want to say they were like 2-2 at that point.
3 years in a row now,
maybe
right?
3-2, right? It was not a given they were going to get bowl eligible. That win at South Carolina was huge. They got 5 wins right now. I see that remaining schedule, Hutton, and I say they're going to beat Arkansas at home. They're going to be bowl eligible. That's not terrible, given the start to this season. I know that's not what Florida fans want to hear, what they ultimately want, but 6-6 this year from where they were after Lexington,
right? Not
the worst thing in the world. I think they've all but got that at this point, and maybe more.
The top 3 games plus wrong team favored straight ahead on Hot Mic.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I made the call to end the Me Too movement. And today I'm going to continue making that case. And that's just a way to further taunt these women, to make them feel less than, to make them realize that this has just become a big joke. Deion Sanders is the Donald Trump of football.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
getting you into the football weekend with some picks and predictions for you. Chad, NFL moneymaker locks. I will start this out. We also welcome in Davey Hudson. I think I'm looking at this, and I know what Davey's going to say. Desmond Ridder is 4-0 against the spread against the NFC South. He is 0-7 against the spread in all other divisions. But keep in mind the Titans have allowed 8 yards per pass attempt to opposing quarterbacks. That is 4th highest. They also have a very good run defense. Ridder's going to be throwing a lot. He's going for his 4th straight game with over 250 yards passing. Take the over 250 for Ridder in passing yardage on Sunday in Week 8 against the Tennessee defense. That's
I can
my
see
lock.
that. You know, Tennessee, Kevin Byard out. Obviously, after the trade to Philadelphia, Titans have rolled out Roger McCreary, another guy in the secondary. See them looking to attack it early and often.
Tough. Tony in L.A., big Titans fan, wasn't happy to hear that news from Davey. Look, I've got one that this is just two teams headed in completely opposite directions right now, I feel like. Hutton highlighted this a little bit earlier in the week with the Vikings. So they're right back squarely in the mix right now, playing better, coming off a win over the 49ers.
Yep.
1.5-point favorite. I know it's on the road in Lambeau. I think they're getting that easily. I think they're a touchdown better than the Packers right now. Give me Minnesota on the road, -1.5 as my lock of the week. I think the Vikings go and win.
I follow you on
relatively easily in this game, certainly by more than 2 points.
Green Bay's been outscored 63-6 in the first half of their last 4 games.
They're headed in the wrong direction.
I would like a shootout for that one for fantasy purposes.
Okay.
But, guys, my lock of the week is Breece Hall, anytime touchdown. The Giants and the Jets are facing off each other, which is a little weird because they played in the preseason. You typically see the NFL try to avoid preseason matchups with teams that they would then see in the regular season. But, listen, before the Denver game, Robert Saleh said we're taking the training wheels off. He's back. He's fully healthy. We've discussed the Dalvin Cook issues that he's wanting out. It doesn't look like he's going to be a big factor in their game plan moving forward either. Breece Hall has had 2 touchdowns in the last 2 games, 1 in each, and this Giants defense is just not good against the run. I anticipate that, listen, they're not going to put the game in Zach Wilson's hands. Breece Hall is the guy that can get it done for this team, and that's what they're going to do, and he's going to get a touchdown. I was debating going Breece Hall 2 touchdowns, anytime touchdowns, but
that'd be big.
But right now, for the lock, I'll probably bet that separately, but for the lock, just Breece Hall, anytime touchdown, I got that at +115.
You can find these odds with PointsBet. Right now is the perfect moment to hop on board and take your shot. Exclusively for first-time PointsBet users, grab this unique offer. Right now, new PointsBet users get up to $1,000 in second chance bets. If your first bet doesn't go as planned, PointsBet has your back with a second chance. Get this offer by visiting OutKick.com/bet. You complete the registration process with PointsBet. Make your first bet. If your first bet doesn't go as planned, well, that's when your second chance bet's come into play. Remember, terms and conditions apply. You got to be 21 or older in legal gambling states. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. OutKick.com/bet is where you go to snag this offer. Wrong team favored in college football. Looking at the totals right now, I'm up to 29.5 as we will show
Good job
this,
by you.
I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Chad, needing a win. I hope you get it this week. I want you to win.
Let me calculate
Davey
my
with 10.
score. Oh, it's 0. So that was quick. I calculated it in a hurry. That's
the
good.
Utes helped me. The Utes helped me in Week 8. I thought about Utah, but they're hosting Oregon. That's the problem. I trust the Ducks more than I trust USC. I am staying in the Pac-12, though, because a competitor, not necessarily always a winner, but a competitor has been Arizona, and they are hosting Oregon State. Oregon State comes in at a 3.5-point favorite on the road at Arizona. I look at that and raise an eyebrow. Arizona's offense averaging 32 points per game, 450 total yards per game, and defensively, they're only allowing 20 points per game on average. And both teams are coming off a bye. I like Arizona at home to win outright and give me 3.5 more on the tally of 29.5. I'm topping 30 this week.
Yeah, you'll probably get it.
This is the complete opposite of my softball coaching this year, where I was perfect on the season, 16-0. I've gone perfect in reverse so far. And I've literally tried everything.
You're the Browns.
I'm going from one extreme to the other.
You're
I'm
the
going
Lions.
biggest game of the year nationally. I'm going to Air Force Navy and the Commander-in-Chief trophy. I'm just bouncing all over the place trying to have any level of success that I can find. I'm going to do it once again this week. I'm going to a bit of an obscure game. Give me Texas State at home as a 7-point home dog against Troy. Texas State, here's what I can tell you about Texas State. TJ Finley, quarterback, transferred in from Auburn. They've got an explosive offense. They're averaging 494 yards per game. That's more than 70 yards better than Troy. Now, the flip side of that is Troy's much better defensively. Gives up far fewer than what Texas State has done. But at home, take the team with a better offense because you don't have a noisy defensive type game to affect that offense. Texas State, they're going to score. They're going to score often. I am getting off the schneid this week. I will speak it into existence. I will have 7 under my name and not 0. By this time next week, it's happening. Texas State Bobcats, winners this weekend. Already congrats to them on a big upset over Troy, and they are right back there towards the top of their conference.
Second biggest win since Baylor this year.
Yeah, they're going to look back. They're going to have statues.
Yeah. It'll be engraved inside the ring.
Commemorating both. I might have a statue commemorating this win if this actually happens.
All right, Davey, where are you headed?
Yes, for my pick, I am going down to Orlando. And West Virginia's taking on UCF.
Headed to Disney.
I circled this game as a possibility.
This is going to be a shootout. It is going to be a fun game. It might be one of the most entertaining games when you just look at it from the standpoint of, all right, we're going to have a lot of offense, no defense. But West Virginia currently a 7-point dog. They're going to be able to run the ball all over UCF. When I look at UCF right now, they have yet to win a game in the Big 12. They're still looking for that first one. This is their best opportunity so far, but they've struggled each time, and I don't think it's going to happen. I know if you look at Neil Brown's West Virginia Mountaineers, they've had a rough last 2 games. One, they lost on the final play in a Hail Mary situation against Houston, and then they had some big-time woes in the fourth quarter. I expect for them to get things right this week. They go down there. The game's at noon Eastern, so it's one of those early ones. I don't anticipate the crowd to be much of a factor, and so I look for West Virginia to right the ship and get the upset over the Knights.
And they're facing a bad run defense, but they probably are without one of their top wide receivers, West Virginia, I believe.
I'll never forget Garrett Green of West Virginia, the quarterback, getting the celebration penalty after scoring, and that's what set up Houston for the Hail Mary. That cost them the game.
Let's all win this weekend. How about that?
Let's just me win. Let's not have that happen. Because if Hutton wins, then it's even less interesting the rest of the way. Yeah, I think what needs to happen for this competition is just for me to win. That's what I want to happen.
I'm off-site scouting. Okay, guys.
Yeah.
I'm Connor Stallions.
You've got your own Connor Stallions. His name is Matt McCloy. That's your Connor Stallions.
He's giving me winners.
It's the Connor Stallions of your own. He's got all the signals down.
Well,
quick, Matty Ice. What does Troy like to do on defense when they blitz? What's the hand signal they use?
Yeah, Chad. Are any of your top 3 games of the weekend were they mentioned in our wrong team favorite?
They were mentioned. One game was mentioned, but you did not pick it.
Okay.
Shall we get back to the top 10 games and go next to number 3? Game number 3. I think this is sneaky, big-time upset potential in this game, and it moved it up my board for that reason. Number 6, Oklahoma, a 9-point favorite at Kansas, 11 a.m. Central Time on Fox, big noon kickoff. Sooners are riding an 18-game winning streak in this series. It's not Jalen Daniels, Jalen Daniels. Jason Beam at quarterback for KU in this game. Kansas 2-2 with him at quarterback. Dylan Gabriel for Oklahoma. Why not him for the Heisman? He's right up there right now.
He's 3rd or 4th in the odds.
He's got another chance to prove his case, but they got to go on the road and win this one. Sneaky good game here between Oklahoma and Kansas.
Homecoming for the Rock Chalk.
How brazen of the Jayhawks to schedule Oklahoma for homecoming.
Back from the bye week, too.
Maybe it's a slap at them for leaving for the SEC. How dare you leave for the SEC? You're now our homecoming opponent. And, oh, by the way, we're going to beat you and derail your season with our backup quarterback in this one. That's what Kansas is trying to do tomorrow. Big noon kickoff game on Fox. Game number 2, the Davey Hudson special, his favorite. He's wearing the shirt today. He's ready to go. Number 20, Duke Blue Devils at number 18, Louisville. Louisville, a 4.5-point favorite. I didn't think Riley Leonard would play last week. He gave it a go. He was not effective against Florida State. Mike Elko eventually pulled him out of the game. He kept trying to get back in. He was pleading his case to get back in. No go. Wouldn't let him. Don't know if he's going to play or not this week. That's certainly a factor in this one. One of the factors why Louisville's a 4.5-point favorite in this game. 2:30 on ESPN. Duke, though, good news for them. They average 5.6 yards per carry when they run the football. Louisville has allowed fewer than 100 yards per game throughout the season on the ground. Good rushing attack. The story for Louisville is when they're plus in the turnover column, the big things happen. They forced 5 turnovers against Notre Dame in their biggest win of the season. The following week, they lose at Pitt, a bad Pitt team, mind you. They were -3 in the turnover column. Win the turnover battle, win the game for Louisville.
Both of these teams, throughout the season, I've had no idea how to bet them.
Week to week.
Yeah. I feel the same way as they match up head-to-head here. It's a good game. Look forward to watching it.
Game number 1 seems like a reoccurring theme, going back to the Pac-12. I had a few top games of the week so far this season in the Pac-12. Number 8, Oregon at number 13, Utah. The Ducks a 6.5-point favorite. This game, 2:30 Central Time on Fox. Every division title in the Pac-12 North was won by one of these two teams from 2011 to 2021. Lots of success between both of these programs. Utah is going for a three-peat as Pac-12 champion. Won the last 2. Utah under Kyle Whittingham in Salt Lake City. You ready for this? 88-25 at home. That is a tough, it's Eccles Stadium, I believe, a tough place to play. An underrated home field advantage there in Salt Lake City for Utah. Oregon second nationally in total offense. Hutton, you teased this game as one you looked at.
I did.
To go back to your Utes, but you like that Oregon offense and Bo Nix a little too much.
Yeah, Oregon's just consistent. You know, like so is Utah with how they show up and play. And I love the storyline of Utah overall, going with the three-peat and all that. These are the two programs that have represented the Pac-12 by and large by brand, just at the top games, winning conference. When's the last time Oregon won the Pac-12? It's been a while.
Yeah.
2010.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Even with all those division titles.
Yeah. So, look, Utes have claimed the last 2 titles. Oregon, I think, stands in their way, and it's a mountain they won't overcome. I think this is a great football game, though. I think it's just like the Washington matchup, except Oregon's going to win late. They're not going to miss a kick or not be able to make a play.
Yeah.
And Utah lost at Oregon State last month. You've got Oregon who lost at Washington. And what does this do? You've got Washington matching up with Utah coming up, I believe. And
Oregon, by the way, won in 2020 and 2019.
Well,
so
the 2010.
Actually, the last 4 Pac-12 champions, this is what's interesting about this game. Utah, Oregon, Oregon. 2022, 2021, Utah, 2020, Oregon, 2019, Oregon. And then they won in 2014 before that. 2014 was the Mariota year that they lost to Jameis Winston and Florida State in the national championship game, winning the Pac-12 also.
Yeah, it's time for the Ducks to take over. And, Chad, did you pick – I believe you picked Washington to win the conference.
I did.
I should have. I felt that way. I picked Oregon, though, originally, and I think either team can beat anyone in the country. I don't feel that way about Utah.
Should I give you my 2 other picks for wrong team favorite before I settled on Texas State?
Yes.
It was South Carolina over Texas A&M as sort of a joke. That angry Shane Beamer, you don't want to see Shane angry. And then I went with this one. I said Utah at home. But I said Hutton may want that one because it's his Utes. And then I eventually settled on Texas State. Watch those other 2 I just mentioned both hit.
May we all win. Enjoy the college football and NFL weekend. We're back on Monday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, right here for Hot Mike with Hutton Withrow across the OutKick Network.